The room was thick with silence as Dumbledore stared into the swirling depths of the pensive, the silvery strands of memory dancing like smoke. He had revisited this moment more times than he cared to admit. The night Severus Snape had overheard the prophecy. But this time, something was different. The vision played back with a cruel twist of fate. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. Born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the 7th month dies. 2 boys fit the prophecy. Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy. But what the Dark Lord had not known, what Dumbledore now feared, was that it had not been Harry's home he visited first. It had been Malfoy Manor. Years earlier, on a storm-lashed night, Voldemort had crept through the shadows of Wiltshire, wand at the ready. Lucius Malfoy, once favored, had lost standing with the Dark Lord. The Malfoys' failure in retrieving the prophecy, even then, had led to punishment. The child, barely 1 year old, lay sleeping under a green silk canopy. When the killing curse struck, it rebounded, just as it had with Harry in another timeline. But this time, it was Draco Lucius Malfoy who was marked. Lightning seared across the boy's chest, not his forehead. A jagged scar, shaped like a curling serpent, flared to life over his heart. The Dark Lord vanished. And Draco survived. Years passed. The wizarding world hailed the infant Malfoy as their savior. The Ministry crafted a carefully controlled narrative. Lucius was reluctant but cooperative, Narcissa fiercely protective. They did not parade Draco before the world, as the Potters might have done with Harry. Instead, he was raised in the shadows of polished marble, taught to revere power and tradition. But unlike the Draco we knew, this Draco had the weight of destiny on his shoulders from the beginning. Hogwarts loomed ahead now, its towers black against the gray Scottish sky. The scar beneath Draco's robes tingled faintly. He pressed his palm against his chest, frowning. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. "Remember, my dragon," she'd said softly that morning, smoothing his robes. "You're not like the others. Be careful who you trust." He stepped aboard the Hogwarts Express with an air of practiced confidence. But beneath the surface, doubt churned. The world saw a hero. He felt like an imposter. In another compartment, Harry Potter sat alone, forgotten by history. His parents had survived that night, unharmed, untouched by prophecy. James was an Auror, Lily a researcher. Harry was a quiet boy with messy hair, no scar, and no special destiny. When Draco passed his compartment, their eyes met for the briefest second. A strange pull passed between them. Neither knew why. Sorting was quick. Malfoy, Draco. Slytherin. The hat bellowed before it touched his head. Applause rose from the house draped in green and silver. Potter, Harry. The hat hesitated. Brave, loyal, not a bad mind either. But where to put you? Without the burden of fate, perhaps Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff. Harry thought, blinking. Yes, said the hat firmly, and shouted it to the hall. Laughter rippled in waves, but Harry walked to the table with calm dignity, face unreadable. The first weeks at Hogwarts were strange. Draco was used to deference. Now, even older students whispered about him. The boy who lived. The serpent's scar. He hated the names. He wanted to be just Draco. Classes were easy, he was well prepared. But defense against the dark arts was different. Professor Quirrell's presence made his scar ache, even more than usual. A nervous, stammering man with a twitching eye, Quirrell seemed to focus on Draco too often. The serpent scar burned when he passed behind him, and at night, Draco dreamed of green light and whispering voices. He didn't confide in anyone. Even Crabbe and Goyle were more bodyguards than friends. He missed having someone who understood. Sometimes, he thought of the boy with the green eyes from the train. One afternoon, as he walked by the library, he saw Potter again. He was laughing with a girl with bushy hair, Granger, and a round-faced boy, Longbottom. Draco slowed, watching them. They looked normal. Happy. He envied that. Madame Hooch's flying lesson came next. Draco took to a broom like a bird to wind. But Harry soared. Look at him, Draco muttered. He flies like a bloody seeker. He felt something flare, jealousy? Or admiration? Potter saved a Remembrall from a nasty fall with a dive that left everyone gaping. McGonagall rushed out, eyes wild. But she didn't call Potter to her office. She called Draco. That evening, he sat in Dumbledore's office, confused. Fawkes blinked at him gently from his perch. Draco, said the headmaster kindly. You must understand, there are powers at work that connect you to Potter and yourself. A bond forged in what could have been. Fate has a curious way of intertwining destinies. I don't want him involved, Draco snapped. I'm the chosen one, right? Isn't this my war to fight? Dumbledore's blue eyes twinkled sadly. Perhaps. Or perhaps it was never meant to be fought alone. Draco stormed out, confused and angry. Why was Potter always there, hovering at the edge of everything? That night, the scar on his chest burned so intensely he woke up screaming. And across the castle, Harry sat bolt upright in his bed, clutching at his chest, though he bore no scar. Draco's screams echoed through the Slytherin dormitory, pulling startled first-years from their beds. Crabbe leapt from his four-poster in confusion, while Goyle clumsily knocked over a bottle of ink. Blaise Zabini stared at Draco with wide eyes as the boy thrashed under his blankets, clutching his chest where the serpent scar glowed faintly through his nightshirt. Snape arrived moments later, his robes billowing like smoke, wand at the ready. One flick, and the torches flared brighter. He didn't ask questions, just knelt at Draco's side and pressed a cool hand to his shoulder. Breathe, Draco, he commanded softly, his voice a rare thread of comfort. What did you see? Draco's breaths were ragged. Green light. Screaming. A face, burned, in the back of someone's head. Snape's face remained still, but his grip tightened. He dismissed the others curtly and levitated Draco's bed into the hospital wing under Madame Pomfrey's protest. Snape stayed the entire night, watching as Draco's scar pulsed with residual magic. By morning, it had dimmed, but the fear remained. Meanwhile, in the Hufflepuff dormitories, Harry sat on the edge of his bed, clutching his chest with confusion. There had been no pain, no scar, but he felt something. A ripple. A pulse like someone screaming inside his bones. Neville asked him if he was okay, but Harry just nodded, too confused to explain. Back in the hospital wing, Draco sat upright, sipping a bitter potion as Dumbledore entered, robes whispering softly with each step. His usual calm was tinged with concern. I need answers, Draco said sharply, lowering the goblet. Why is this happening to me? The scar you bear, Dumbledore said gently, was not just the result of a rebounded curse. It's a connection. You and Voldemort, your souls touched, even if only for a moment. It leaves a mark deeper than magic. Draco's lips thinned. I feel him. His anger. His hatred. Sometimes his voice. Dumbledore gave a grave nod. And sometimes he may feel you. A cold chill crept down Draco's spine. He turned away, staring out the window, where owls flew past the turrets in lazy spirals. You said Harry and I are connected. But he has no scar. No prophecy. Why does he feel what I feel? Because fate is not so easily dismissed, Dumbledore said, eyes thoughtful. Perhaps the prophecy was never meant for one child alone. Perhaps it was always meant for two. Draco didn't reply. But inside he was afraid. Not of Voldemort. Of being alone. Classes resumed. He kept to himself, though he noticed Potter watching him now too. They didn't speak, but there was an unspoken tension between them. Two sides of a mirror neither could shatter. Halloween arrived, and with it chaos. The evening feast was interrupted by a scream from the dungeons. Professor Quirrell stumbled into the great hall, eyes wild. Troll! In the dungeons! Thought you ought to know. The panic spread like wildfire. Students screamed and scrambled. Prefects barked orders. Teachers rushed out, wands drawn. Draco didn't wait. The pain in his scar was flaring again, and something told him this wasn't random. He slipped away through the confusion, following a whisper in his chest. Not unlike instinct, not unlike fate. It led him to the girls' bathroom on the first floor. Inside, the troll towered over Hermione Granger, who was pressed against the far wall, trembling. A jagged piece of pipe was clutched in her fist, but it was useless against a creature that size. The troll roared, swinging its club. Then Harry burst in. No hesitation. No plan. Just instinct. He grabbed a loose bit of wood and shouted, Oi! Over here! The troll turned. Draco arrived seconds later, wand in hand. He had no idea what spell to use. Everything he'd learned felt useless. Harry threw the stick with all his strength. It clattered off the troll's head and did nothing. The troll raised its club. Hermione screamed. Diffindo! Draco shouted. The slicing charm hit the troll's arm, and it howled. The club dropped with a thud. Harry dove for it and swung at the creature's knee. Together, somehow, they brought it down. The aftermath was a blur of professors shouting and students gasping. McGonagall, Flitwick, and Snape burst in with enough magic to level a mountain. The troll was bound and removed. Granger was safe. But the real shock was seeing Malfoy and Potter standing side by side, covered in dust and blood, as if they'd always been a team. Later, in Dumbledore's office again, the two boys sat side by side. "You two saved her life," the headmaster said, steepling his fingers. "That is no small thing." "I don't need a medal," Draco muttered. "I need answers." Harry just looked at him, studying him more carefully now. "Why did you come? You could have run." Draco met his eyes. "Because I felt it. Something was wrong. I knew where to go. It's like my scar was screaming." Harry was quiet. "I felt it too." Dumbledore exhaled slowly. "And thus the threads pull tighter. The scar, Harry, perhaps it's not visible. But you too were marked by choice, by chance, by proximity to destiny." The boys didn't know what to say. As they left the office, Harry paused outside. "You don't have to do it alone, you know." Draco scoffed. "Says the boy who's been invisible his whole life." Harry gave a half-smile. "It's easier than being worshipped and feared." Draco hesitated. "We're not friends, Potter." "I know," Harry said. "Not yet." And then he walked away. Draco stood there, a war brewing beneath his skin. Not against Voldemort, but against his own pride. That night, for the first time in weeks, the scar didn't burn. Not even once. The morning after the troll attack, the castle buzzed with whispered speculation. Rumors flew faster than owls. Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter had fought a troll together and lived to tell the tale. Stranger still, Malfoy had saved Hermione Granger. That part of the story stunned everyone the most, especially the Slytherins, who now looked at Draco with a mixture of awe, confusion, and suspicion. At breakfast, Draco sat in the great hall with a blank expression. Crabbe and Goyle flanked him like usual, but they stayed unusually silent. Blaise Zabini leaned in. "You really did it? Took down a troll? With Potter?" Draco didn't answer. He pushed food around on his plate, appetite gone. He could feel Harry's eyes on him from the Hufflepuff table. Across the hall, Harry had barely touched his pumpkin juice. Hermione sat beside him, glancing between the two boys. She looked far less terrified of Draco now, and far more curious. Later that day, as the castle resumed its usual rhythm, Professor McGonagall summoned both Draco and Harry to her office. They exchanged glances before stepping inside together, the tension between them taut, but no longer hostile. McGonagall closed the door and faced them, lips thin. "Headmaster Dumbledore has instructed me to share something important with both of you. It concerns the prophecy." Draco's eyes narrowed. "The one about me?" McGonagall gave a tight nod. "Yes. And possibly, the one about both of you." She retrieved a small, glass vial from her desk, a silvery memory swirling inside. "This is a memory recorded by Professor Trelawney. It's one she has no recollection of giving. But Dumbledore preserved it, suspecting its importance." She tapped the vial with her wand. A shimmering mist poured into the air and shaped into a translucent figure. Sybil Trelawney, eyes wild and voice deep, almost inhuman. "The Dark Lord shall mark him as his equal, but he shall have power the Dark Lord knows not. Two paths bound by fate, born as the seventh month dies. One with cunning, one with heart. Only one may meet the Dark Lord at the end, yet neither may succeed alone." The mist faded. Silence filled the room. McGonagall said nothing more. She didn't need to. Draco looked shaken. "That wasn't just about me." Harry stared at the spot where the mist had vanished. "One with cunning. One with heart. And yet," McGonagall added softly, "both are marked. Draco by his scar. Harry by his." "Nothing," Draco interrupted coldly. "Potter doesn't have a scar." But even as he said it, he wasn't sure he believed it anymore. After they left her office, Harry followed Draco into a quiet corridor beneath the astronomy tower. The stone walls muffled the footsteps of passing students above. "You don't really think this is all a coincidence, do you?" Harry asked. Draco paced. "I think I was marked by Voldemort. I think he tried to kill me, and I survived. And now everyone expects me to save the world." Harry shrugged. Sounds a lot like what they expected of me before your name showed up in that prophecy. Draco turned on him. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. I understand better than you think, Harry said. I've been compared to a hero my whole life, just because of my parents. Everyone expected me to be brave, to be special. But I'm not. Draco's voice lowered. Then why does Voldemort care about you? Harry didn't answer because he didn't know. That weekend, Dumbledore summoned them both to his office again. This time, to meet someone who had been hiding far from the castle for years, Remus Lupin. He stepped from the shadows with a tired smile, his eyes landing on Harry first. I knew your father, he said softly, and your mother. You have Lily's eyes. Harry's heart twisted. No one had ever said that to him before, not someone who meant it. Draco crossed his arms. And why are you here now? Lupin looked to Dumbledore, who nodded. I'm here because the two of you need guidance, Lupin said. Not just in spells or defense against the dark arts, but in truth. Because if the prophecy is right, your destinies are connected. Voldemort won't wait for either of you to grow up. Draco scoffed. We're barely 11. And yet, Dumbledore said gently, you've already fought a troll together. How many grown wizards can say the same? He gestured toward an ornate shelf where a small, locked case glowed faintly. That case holds the remnants of Tom Riddle's diary. A cursed artifact I believe may tie into what comes next. I do not yet know how, but I trust that when the time comes, the answers will find you. Later that night, Draco sat by the Black Lake alone. The moonlight shimmered across the water, silver like the Slytherin crest. For the first time in his life, he felt the crushing weight of expectation. Not from his father or his house, but from fate itself. Harry appeared beside him, silent for a while. Then, do you think we'll actually have to face him? Voldemort. Draco didn't answer immediately. If the prophecy's right, only one of us will. Harry didn't flinch. Then I'll make sure you don't have to do it alone. Draco looked over at him. I thought you said we weren't friends. Harry smiled faintly. We're not. Not yet. They sat in silence, two boys stitched together by prophecy, scars unseen and seen alike. The war hadn't started, not really, but the storm clouds were already gathering. And far away, in the shadow of an Albanian forest, a shape without a body stirred, its red eyes flickering open for the first time in years. The weeks that followed were unusually quiet, almost too quiet. The story of the troll attack began to fade into legend among the students, replaced by the usual drama of classes, Quidditch tryouts, and who was sneaking into the kitchens after curfew. But for Draco and Harry, things hadn't returned to normal. They couldn't. Not after what they had seen. Not after what they now knew. Their secret meetings with Professor Lupin became routine, always held in shadowed corners of the castle or deep within the Room of Requirement. Lupin drilled them in defensive magic far beyond first-year level. Shield charms, disarming spells, even the basics of nonverbal magic. I still think this is mad, Draco muttered during one of these late-night sessions. We're 11. We're not supposed to be training for war. Harry didn't disagree. But he also didn't stop. Neither did Lupin. The Dark Lord doesn't care how old you are. He'll come when he's ready. You both need to be ready first. Outside those sessions, things grew tenser. Draco noticed Snape watching him more intently, his dark eyes lingering whenever they met in the corridors. Once, after potions, Snape called him back and asked in a low voice, Have you been in contact with anyone outside the school? Draco lied. No, sir. But it unsettled him. Because the truth was he had. It started with a letter. Delivered by a black owl he didn't recognize, the message was brief and unsigned. You carry more than a scar. The legacy is in your blood. When you are ready, the truth will find you. Watch the forest. The handwriting was thin and sharp, and Draco had burned the letter the moment he read it. But the words clung to his thoughts like cobwebs. Watch the forest. It didn't take long to guess which one. A few days later, as the last snow began to melt and spring edged into the air, Draco convinced Harry and Hermione to sneak out to the edge of the forbidden forest. I need to see if there's something there, Draco explained. Something or someone. Hermione hesitated. The forest is off limits for a reason. There are things in there even the professors avoid. Harry looked at Draco. But the letter said. I didn't say anything about a letter. Harry raised an eyebrow. So you got a letter. Draco cursed under his breath. Fine. But I think someone wants me to find something. Something connected to all this. Hermione, against her better judgment, followed them past Hagrid's hut and into the trees. The forest was alive with sounds, chittering insects, rustling branches, the low, distant growl of something unseen. They walked for 10 minutes in silence, wands out, eyes scanning every movement. It was Hermione who noticed the symbols first, carved into a tree trunk, glowing faintly green. Runes, she whispered. Old ones. I think they're protective wards. Draco stepped closer, tracing the shape. Someone's marked this place. But not to keep things out, to keep something in. That's when they heard it. A low hiss. A slither of movement through leaves. And then, a massive shape burst from the underbrush. It was a centaur towering above them, bow drawn. His coat was silver and his eyes fierce. You should not be here. Hermione stumbled back. We're sorry, we didn't mean to. I know why you've come, Draco Malfoy, the centaur interrupted, lowering his bow slightly. We've watched the stars. The forest remembers. Draco blinked. What? You carry the mark. But your path forks in two. One ends in fire. The other in betrayal. Harry stepped forward. Are you saying he'll die? No, the centaur said gravely. I am saying he will be forced to choose who does. Before any of them could ask more, a second sound echoed behind them. Hoofbeats, but heavier. More centaurs emerged, encircling them. The silver-haired one raised a hand. They are not enemies. Let them leave. Draco was still frozen. What did you mean about betrayal? The centaur's eyes glowed like twin moons. You cannot change prophecy, but you can prepare for it. They were escorted back to the forest's edge in silence. Hagrid spotted them sneaking out and bellowed. What are ya doing in there? That forest ain't safe for kids. They made up a story about getting lost chasing a unicorn, and Hagrid, after grumbling for a while, let them off with a warning and 2 steaming mugs of treacle tea. But Draco didn't speak a word all evening. He sat by the common room fire, staring into the flames, fingers unconsciously rubbing the edge of his scar. That night, he dreamed of 2 hallways. One led to a throne room made of black stone, where Voldemort waited, smiling. The other led to Harry, bleeding, fallen beneath a green flash of light. In the dream, Draco stood between them, wand raised, unable to move. Unable to choose. The dream stayed with Draco long after he woke. Even as the sun streamed through the tall windows of the Slytherin dormitory, he sat on the edge of his bed, breath shallow, hand trembling near his forehead. The mark, his scar, felt hot again. Not burning, but pulsing, as though it were alive. You're not eating, Pansy noted at breakfast, watching Draco push scrambled eggs around his plate. That's the 2nd day in a row. I'm not hungry, Draco muttered. He looked across the great hall. Harry was sitting between Ron and Hermione at the Gryffindor table. He too looked distant, lips drawn tight. He hadn't spoken much since the visit to the forest. Hermione had tried to fill the silence with theories, centaur astrology, ancient wards, possible meanings of the centaur's cryptic warning. But nothing really helped. As the hall filled with chatter, Professor Dumbledore stood to make an announcement. A reminder to all students, due to certain unexpected developments, the Forbidden Forest is strictly off-limits to all unless accompanied by a professor. His eyes flicked briefly toward Draco and Harry, twinkling behind his half-moon glasses. Even for the curious. There was a beat of silence. Then he smiled. Also, I'm pleased to announce that Professor Forenza will be joining us as a guest lecturer in divination next term. Please treat him with the same respect as any other professor. Draco felt his stomach drop. The centaur. He's coming here? Later that day, Draco was pulled aside by Snape again. This time, the conversation was not in the corridor but in the man's private office, lined with shadowy jars and the constant, low bubble of brewing potions. Snape didn't waste time. You've been having dreams, he said, voice as smooth as silk but sharp as glass. Prophetic ones. You will tell me. Draco clenched his fists. I don't remember them. Snape's black eyes narrowed. You are lying, Mr. Malfoy. And lies, I assure you, will only make things worse. A beat passed. Then Snape leaned forward, lowering his voice. You bear the scar. But the Dark Lord. He has not marked you in vain. You are connected to him, Draco. That connection may become your greatest weapon or your greatest curse. Draco said nothing. Snape stared for a long moment, then finally stood and turned toward a high shelf. There are protections. A clemency, for example. Mental defenses that may help shield your mind from intrusion. You are not ready yet, but you must begin soon. He may try to speak to you, twist you, use you. He already is, Draco muttered before he could stop himself. Snape froze. What? Nothing, Draco lied again, rising to leave. Can I go? Snape didn't stop him. Draco met Harry that night in the room of requirement. It had shifted into a dimly lit chamber with a padded floor, almost like a dueling arena. Hermione was already there, practicing wand movements with sharp precision. We're being watched, Draco told them. Snape suspects something. Dumbledore probably knows everything. And now that Centaur is coming to the school. You think it's all connected? Harry asked. I know it is, Draco said. That dream I had, it wasn't just a dream. He turned and pulled up his sleeve. Beneath the scar on his head, another mark had begun to appear, faint, silvery lines wrapping around his forearm like veins of light. Hermione gasped. What is that? I don't know, Draco said. But I think it's magic. Old magic. Hermione stepped closer. Wait. Let me look. There are symbols forming. Runes. Harry frowned. Runes? Like the ones in the forest. Hermione nodded. But different. More primal. This could be some kind of ancient magic bound to the scar. Maybe even part of the prophecy. Prophecy, Draco repeated bitterly. Everyone talks about the prophecy, but no one says what it is. Harry looked at him. Maybe it's time we find out. That night, they broke into the restricted section of the library. Hermione handled the unlocking charm with ease, and soon they were creeping between dusty rows of ancient books, their wands glowing faintly. It was Hermione who found it, a thick volume titled The Oracle's Tongue, Forgotten Prophecies of the Wizarding World. She opened it carefully, flipping through pages until one passage made her stop. There, written in looping ink, was a prophecy, born of blood marked by flame. One shall rise to face the name, not of love, but of the line. The shadow's heir shall cross the sign. If he falls, the world shall turn. If he chooses, the fire shall burn. Draco felt the words ripple through him like a shiver. The shadow's heir, Hermione whispered. That must be you. The heir of someone connected to darkness, Voldemort. No, Draco said quietly. Not Voldemort. Harry looked at him. Then who? Draco turned the page. Beneath the prophecy, someone had scrawled a note in rough script. Ask Dumbledore about Cassius Malfoy. Draco's blood ran cold. My grandfather. The name was barely spoken. He'd heard it only in hushed tones at family gatherings, mentioned once in a book of pureblood genealogy. A wizard who had vanished before Draco was born. A traitor, according to Lucius. A madman. He was said to have dealings with things even Voldemort feared, Hermione said, reading over his shoulder. Harry's eyes met Draco's. That's what the centaur meant, isn't it? Your path doesn't just involve Voldemort. It's older. Deeper. Draco closed the book slowly. And suddenly, the mark on his arm throbbed. This time, it didn't just hurt. It pulled like a tether leading somewhere. Come on, he said, standing abruptly. Where? Hermione asked. Dumbledore's office, Draco answered. It's time he told us everything. The corridors of Hogwarts were unnaturally silent as Draco, Harry, and Hermione ascended the spiraling staircase leading to the headmaster's office. The stone steps clicked beneath their feet with each tense stride. None of them spoke. The air felt heavy, like something was waiting behind the office door, something ancient, something inevitable. Draco paused in front of the griffin statue. Air lemon drop, he said uncertainly. The statue groaned and twisted aside, revealing the hidden staircase. Hermione looked at him in surprise. How did you know the password? I didn't, Draco said, swallowing. It just came to me. When they reached the top, Dumbledore was already waiting for them. He stood behind his desk, robes shimmering in the dim light, his expression unreadable. I was expecting you, he said softly. Harry stepped forward. We found the prophecy. About the shadow's heir. And Cassius Malfoy. Dumbledore didn't flinch. Instead, he gestured to the chairs before him. Sit. There is much to discuss, and very little time. They sat. The silence hung heavy for a long moment. Cassius Malfoy, Dumbledore began, folding his hands, was once a brilliant, if dangerously ambitious wizard. A master of wandless magic, versed in rituals long lost to most. But he sought not only power, he sought immortality, divinity. And in doing so, he crossed into realms even Grindelwald and Voldemort dared not explore. Draco's voice was low. And he's my grandfather. Yes, Dumbledore said gently. Lucius rarely speaks of him because Cassius abandoned the family when he chose to pursue forbidden paths. He vanished into the wilds of Eastern Europe, last seen among the ruins of Nurmengard. Why was his name written beneath the prophecy? Hermione asked. Because the prophecy was not originally about Voldemort, Dumbledore said. It predates him. The shadow it refers to is not just a man. It is a force. A primal darkness that Cassius attempted to awaken. Voldemort, in his arrogance, became an echo of that same shadow. Harry leaned forward. So what does that make Draco? Dumbledore met Draco's eyes. The bloodline of Cassius carries a mark, an imprint that can either bind the shadow or unleash it. Your scar, Draco, is not merely a connection to Voldemort. It is a seal placed long ago, meant to restrain the darkness within your bloodline. Draco stared at him. But why me? Why not my father? Lucius was born without the mark, Dumbledore said. Some believed it skipped generations. When Voldemort tried to kill Harry that night, the curse rebounded. But the power didn't just disappear, it sought another vessel. And you, Draco, were born on the cusp of the prophecy's timing. The curse, combined with your blood, left the mark on you instead of Harry. Hermione gasped. So, the scar wasn't a mistake. No, Dumbledore said. It was a redirection. Destiny chose Draco, but the world assumed it was Harry. Draco stood suddenly, the heat rising in his chest. So all this time I was the target? The weapon? The chosen one? You are not a weapon, Draco, Dumbledore said quietly. You are a choice. The prophecy does not command your actions, it offers paths. One leads to salvation, the other to ruin. Harry rose beside him. Then we need to know everything. No more riddles. What is this darkness? What are we truly facing? Dumbledore hesitated for a long moment, then turned to the cabinet behind him. He opened it, retrieving an old, shallow bowl, silver, with runes around the rim. The pensive, he murmured. He drew his wand and touched it to his temple. Silvery strands of memory flowed from his head into the bowl. These are memories from over 50 years ago, before Voldemort's rise. Watch closely. The three leaned in. In the swirling mist, a younger Dumbledore stood before a man with cold eyes and silver-blonde hair that bore a striking resemblance to Draco. He stood in a dark chamber lined with arcane symbols. The man, Cassius Malfoy, spoke with chilling clarity. You fear the void, Dumbledore. But I will shape it. I will bind the chaos and wear it like a crown. You are summoning things that should never walk this world, the younger Dumbledore warned. Cassius laughed. Then let them walk. I will not fear what I can master. The memory faded. They pulled back, breathless. Cassius did summon something, Dumbledore said. A being called Veilhar, a shadow from beyond the veil of death. But the ritual failed. Cassius disappeared, and Veilhar was trapped until now. Draco's scar pulsed again. It's waking, he said. Yes, Dumbledore said gravely. Voldemort's return stirred the ancient magic. But it is you, Draco, who holds the key. Veilhar will seek you. It will tempt you, offer you power beyond comprehension. And if you accept, I become what Cassius tried to be, Draco whispered. A god of darkness. Dumbledore nodded. Which is why you must not walk this path alone. Harry, Hermione, and others will help you. But your will, your choices, will decide everything. The weight of it all settled like a storm cloud over Draco. He didn't want this. He never did. Yet here he was, marked by fate, pursued by nightmares, tied to an ancient evil no one else even knew existed. But then Harry placed a hand on his shoulder. You're not alone. Draco looked at him, and for the first time believed it. Outside the office, thunder cracked against the castle walls. A storm was rising, and the shadow was coming. Rain lashed against the high windows of the astronomy tower, casting shadows that danced like specters across the ancient stone walls. Draco stood at the edge, robes flapping in the wind, eyes fixed on the churning black clouds over the forbidden forest. His scar pulsed again, this time more insistently, like something was reaching for him from across the veil. Behind him, Harry, Hermione, and Professor McGonagall stood in silence, waiting for him to speak. "I feel it," Draco said finally, his voice tight. "It's watching me, like it's waking up." Hermione clutched her arms tightly. "Veilhar," Dumbledore said. "A shadow god. Or something worse," McGonagall murmured. "Something beyond gods." Harry stepped beside Draco. "We need to prepare. If Voldemort's just a piece of what's coming, we're outmatched." "No," Draco said, turning to face them. "We're not. We still have time. And Dumbledore told me that the mark doesn't control me. I control it." But even as he said it, he wasn't sure he believed it. Back in the headmaster's office, Dumbledore sat with his hands steepled, deep in thought. Fawkes the Phoenix let out a low, mournful cry, and Dumbledore's eyes flicked to a glowing orb floating above his desk. The light within pulsed with the same rhythm as Draco's scar. "Albus." Snape entered without knocking. "You summoned me." Dumbledore nodded. "It's time. We need to activate the Circle of Aegis." Snape's eyes narrowed. "You swore never to use that again." "That was before the shadow stirred. Before Draco became the fulcrum." Snape hesitated, then Saturday very well. "But you'll need more than ancient wards to protect him. The Ministry is watching. Fudge is already questioning your control of the school." "Let him," Dumbledore said. "He can't stop what's coming." Meanwhile, in the Slytherin common room, the mood had shifted. Draco's confrontation with Voldemort in the forest had become legend. Some whispered that he had turned dark. Others said he'd fought the Dark Lord and survived. Pansy Parkinson was one of the few brave enough to confront him directly. "What's happening to you?" she asked, arms crossed as she blocked his path to the dorms. Draco sighed. "Nothing you'd understand. Try me." He looked at her, really looked at her. There was fear in her eyes, but something else too. A need for answers. For truth. "I'm connected to something old. Dangerous. Bigger than Voldemort." She blinked. "You're serious?" "Yes. And I don't know if I can stop it." Pansy's bravado faltered. "Then what are we supposed to do? Just wait for it to eat us alive?" Draco hesitated. "No. I need allies. People I can trust. Even if they're not from my house." She scoffed. "So, you're friends with Potter and Granger now?" He nodded. "I have to be. You should decide where you stand, too." For once, Pansy had no clever response. In the room of requirement, now transformed into a wide, circular chamber with glowing runes on the walls, Hermione, Luna, Neville, and a few other students gathered with Harry and Draco. "Dumbledore's asked us to begin training," Hermione explained. "Not just dueling, but resistance to dark magic. We're forming a new group, not Dumbledore's army. Something different." Neville raised a hand. "What's it called?" Draco stepped forward. "The Aegis Circle." The name felt right. Protective. Unified. He held up a parchment marked with the same symbol etched into his scar. A circle wrapped in flame, containing a shadowed eye. "This is what Cassius feared," he said. "And this is what Veilhar will try to consume. We can't beat it with spells alone. We need knowledge. Unity. Trust." Everyone nodded. Training began at once. Spells flew across the room. Barriers shimmered. Luna conjured glowing orbs to simulate dark magic. Hermione showed them protective enchantments Dumbledore had entrusted to her. And in the midst of it all, Draco fought, not with anger or ego, but with purpose. Every strike of his wand felt more focused. Every defensive charm came faster. The others followed him not because of fear or legacy, but because they believed in him. He was becoming something more than just a Malfoy. But in the shadows beneath the school, something else stirred. In the Chamber of Secrets, long since thought sealed, a strange hum began to vibrate through the ancient stone. The mouth of Salazar Slytherin cracked wider, revealing a hidden stairwell no one had ever seen. A figure cloaked in silver stepped through, his face hidden beneath a hood. He carried no wand, only a staff carved from obsidian and bone. He approached the old statue and placed a hand upon its base. "Soon the heir will come," the figure whispered, "and the gate will open." A sliver of darkness, thinner than smoke, slithered up the statue's mouth and disappeared into the figure's palm. "Veilhar awakens," That night, as Draco lay in bed, his scar burned hotter than ever before. He sat up gasping, drenched in sweat. And then he heard it. A voice deep and echoing, but somehow inside his mind. Child of the blood, your destiny awaits. Come to me. Open the veil. Become the storm. Draco clutched his head, trying to block it out. But the voice wouldn't stop. You cannot hide from what you are. And then, just for a second, he saw a vision. A throne of bones. A sky torn in half. And himself, eyes glowing, wreathed in shadow. He screamed. And in that moment, every window in the Slytherin dormitory shattered. The storm had found its vessel. The shards of glass were still scattered across the stone floor when Professor Snape arrived at the Slytherin dormitory. His dark robes billowed as he strode inside, wand drawn, eyes scanning the destruction. Students huddled in corners, whispering fearfully, some nursing shallow cuts. Draco sat in the center of it all, wide-eyed, shaking, and silent. Snape knelt beside him. What happened? Draco's lips moved, but the words caught in his throat. He swallowed hard, then managed to whisper, the voice. It's louder now. It showed me something. I think it's inside the castle. Snape's eyes narrowed. What exactly did it show you? A throne. Bones. And me. But not me. Twisted. Dark. Draco stared at the floor. I'm not sure I'll be able to stop it. Snape placed a hand on Draco's shoulder, firmer than expected. Then we make sure you never face it alone. In the room of requirement, the Aegis circle gathered again, this time under dim candlelight. Draco stood at the center, pale and visibly exhausted, while Hermione drew symbols on the floor using a chalky blue powder. Harry watched with concern but said nothing. Luna, meanwhile, moved quietly, placing ancient runes around the chamber's perimeter. Hermione stepped back. We're ready. What is this supposed to do? Draco asked, eyeing the design beneath his feet. It's a binding focus, Hermione explained. It won't get rid of the connection you have to Veilhar, but it might clarify it, give us a better idea of where it's anchored. That way we can track it, find its source. Harry looked to Draco. Are you sure you want to do this? It could be dangerous. Draco nodded. I need to understand it before it consumes me. Hermione gave a final nod and raised her wand. Focus. Let your mind go still. The circle will do the rest. The runes glowed blue, then white, then black. Draco's eyes rolled back, and his body went rigid. Inside the circle, a mirror-like image of Draco flickered to life, only it wasn't quite him. Its eyes were jet black. Its expression twisted with cruelty. The room fell silent as the vision of Dark Draco raised his head and spoke. You are late, Vessel. The gate is opening. Hermione stepped forward. Who are you? He knows me. I am what he will become when he surrenders. Draco clenched his fists. I won't surrender. The figure's grin widened. You already are. With every breath, the storm grows. The chamber stirs. And soon the first seal will break. The vision collapsed and Draco dropped to his knees, gasping. Blood trickled from his nose. Hermione caught him. The chamber. It mentioned the Chamber of Secrets. Harry's eyes darkened. I thought it was sealed after our second year. Luna tilted her head. Maybe it was until something unsealed it. In the headmaster's office, Dumbledore stood facing the pensive, wand resting against his temple. He drew out a single silver memory and placed it into the basin. The image of a younger Albus emerged, standing in front of a vast stone door deep beneath the castle. Behind him, a hooded figure approached. His face was hidden, but his voice echoed with dark amusement. You can only delay it, Albus. Not stop it. Then I will delay it as long as I can. The memory ended. Dumbledore turned away from the pensive as Snape entered. It's begun, Snape said without preamble. He mentioned the chamber. Dumbledore nodded. And so it begins anew. Do you still think he's the key? I do, Dumbledore replied. But I fear the door we must ask him to open will change him forever. Later that night, Draco met Harry in the astronomy tower. The wind howled around them, but neither boy moved to leave. Do you remember what it felt like when Voldemort was in your head? Draco asked suddenly. Harry nodded. Like drowning in your own thoughts. You start questioning which ones are yours. That's how it feels now. Except, I'm starting to agree with him. Harry turned sharply. With Veilhar? No, Draco said. With my shadow. The part that keeps whispering, telling me I'm stronger than Dumbledore, than Voldemort, than anyone. That I'm meant to be more. Harry looked out over the forest. That's not you. That's the voice talking. You have to fight it. Draco let out a hollow laugh. Easy for you to say. You got to be the chosen one and still be a hero. Me? I'm just trying to survive my own reflection. Harry put a hand on his shoulder. Then let's survive it together. Draco looked at him, and for the first time in weeks, nodded with conviction. The next morning, they descended deep beneath the school with Hermione and Luna leading the way. The path to the Chamber of Secrets, once thought sealed, had reopened. The stones parted like breathing lungs, revealing a stairwell bathed in eerie green light. The further they descended, the colder it grew. Whispers echoed around them, ancient and unintelligible. At the base of the stairwell, they found a door, new, not part of the original chamber. It bore no handle or keyhole, only an inscription in Parseltongue. Harry read it aloud. Speak, heir of shadow, and the path shall be revealed. Everyone looked to Draco. He stepped forward, heart pounding. I am the heir of shadow, he whispered. The door melted away like smoke. Beyond it lay a vast circular chamber, unlike anything they'd seen. Floating crystals hovered in the air, illuminating a swirling black pool in the center. The ceiling stretched into darkness, and on the far wall, a mural showed a figure kneeling before a shattered sky. Hermione's voice trembled. This isn't part of Hogwarts. Luna nodded. It's older. Draco approached the pool. As he peered in, a voice echoed from within. Welcome, Draco Malfoy. You have taken your first step. And in the water, he saw it again. The throne. The storm. And himself, crowned, broken, powerful. The chamber felt alive, pulsing with a rhythm that matched Draco's heartbeat. The swirling black pool continued to whisper, drawing him closer with every breath. His reflection in its depths was not his own. It shifted constantly, flashing between himself, the shadowy double from the vision, and something ancient and monstrous. Don't go any closer, Hermione warned, her voice tight with fear. Draco stopped. It's calling to me. Luna stepped beside him, her gaze fixed on the water. It's not just a reflection. It's a mirror of fate. It shows what you might become, or what already lives within you. Behind them, Harry scanned the chamber warily. This place is wrong. It's like the castle is infected. There are traces of enchantments far older than Hogwarts here, Hermione murmured, examining the runes etched into the walls. Not even Salazar Slytherin could have created this. As they spoke, the chamber trembled slightly. A beam of light shot from one of the floating crystals into the ceiling, where a massive circular glyph began to glow, marking the sky above them with ancient symbols. At its center, Draco's name. Hermione gasped. It's a prophecy. No, Luna corrected, voice distant. It's the prophecy. The true one. Words began to form, glowing in the air above the pool. Born of storm and shattered name. Heir of neither light nor flame. Through the chosen shadows rise. The world shall fall, or fate defies. Draco stared at it, mouth dry. That's not the prophecy the Ministry has. Because the Ministry only ever knew fragments, Hermione said. Trelawney's prophecy, maybe it was never about Harry. Harry looked at her. But I was marked. The scar. Because Voldemort believed it, Hermione said. He chose you. But this was sealed away. Maybe even hidden by Dumbledore himself. Harry's face hardened. And Draco's the one who was really destined to end all this. Or destroy everything, Luna added softly. The words above the pool faded. The chamber stilled. And in that silence, another voice rose. Not from the walls or water, but from inside Draco's head. They see the storm, but they do not see what stirs behind it. Draco staggered back, clutching his head. Visions came faster now. Cities in ruin, shadows climbing the sky, and at the center, a throne built from the wands of the fallen. His hands rested on it. His eyes were black, and the world knelt before him in fear. Draco! Harry shouted, catching him before he fell. Draco gasped, gripping Harry's arm. There's more. A gate. A seal. He's trying to open something under the school. Hermione's face paled. Then we need answers. Real ones. They returned to the surface in grim silence, the door behind them sealing itself once more. Dumbledore was waiting in the great hall, surrounded by the heads of house and aurors from the ministry. The moment he saw their faces, he knew. "You found it," he said quietly. "Yes," Hermione answered. "And it wasn't just the Chamber of Secrets. It was something else entirely." Dumbledore's eyes rested on Draco. "Did it speak to you?" "It showed me what's coming." "Then we are running out of time," Dumbledore said. "Come with me. All of you." He led them back to his office. The silver instruments on the shelves whirred nervously as he passed. At his desk, he removed a book, bound in silver and stitched with a phoenix feather. He opened it to the middle and turned it toward them. It was filled with diagrams, timelines, prophecies, some crossed out, some marked with symbols. Near the center was a name, Draco Malfoy, and beneath it a title, The Chosen Storm. Dumbledore sat. "Long before Voldemort," he began, "there was a seer whose predictions were too dangerous to be kept public. Her name was Althea Greymore. She foretold the rise of a boy born to a fractured house, carrying both darkness and potential. Her prophecy said he would either rebuild the magical world or destroy it in shadow." "Why didn't anyone stop it?" Draco asked. "We tried. We erased records, hid the truths, changed prophecies. But fate is persistent." Dumbledore looked at him gravely. "I hoped it would never come to pass, but I see now it already has." Harry folded his arms. "So what do we do?" Dumbledore gestured to the book. "There are steps. Trials. The prophecy mentions gates, each one tied to a fragment of Veilhar's power. If Draco passes them, he may gain control over the force that's awakening." Hermione frowned. "And if he fails?" "The school falls," Dumbledore said. "And perhaps the world with it." That night, Draco sat alone in the library's restricted section, the silver-bound book in his lap. A flickering candle barely lit the pages. He read the lines over and over. "The first gate lies in reflection, where shadow and self must reconcile." His thoughts were a storm. If this was his destiny, what did that mean for everything else? Was he ever meant to be just Draco Malfoy? Or had all of it, his bloodline, his pride, his rivalry with Harry, just been steps toward something far greater? A voice broke the silence. "You don't have to face it alone." He looked up to see Luna, standing barefoot between the shelves, holding a cup of tea. Draco smiled faintly. "I thought you'd be the first to run away." "I've already seen what happens if I do," she said gently. "It's not a future I liked." He took the cup. Their fingers brushed. And for a moment, the storm quieted. The sun rose over Hogwarts, casting a golden haze through the great hall's stained-glass windows. But for Draco, morning brought no warmth, only the weight of prophecy. He sat alone at the Slytherin table, untouched toast before him, lost in the words that now defined his future. Across the hall, Harry, Hermione, and Luna whispered over a spread of old tomes and maps. Hermione was already poring through references to Althea Greymore's prophecy. Harry watched Draco cautiously, while Luna occasionally glanced toward the high windows, as if expecting an owl to deliver cosmic truth. Dumbledore entered quietly, his presence immediately commanding attention. The hall quieted. "Mr. Malfoy," he called, voice calm but firm. "It is time." Draco stood. He didn't need to ask where they were going. He already knew. The path through the castle was oddly silent. No students whispered behind tapestries. No portraits chatted along the staircases. Dumbledore led the way with grim purpose, his wand occasionally casting spells to reveal hidden doorways or shift ancient stones. Hermione, Harry, and Luna followed, close behind Draco. They descended beneath the astronomy tower, where a stairwell spiraled endlessly downward, deeper than even the dungeons. At last, they reached a narrow corridor that ended in a smooth, obsidian wall etched with serpentine runes. "The first gate," Dumbledore said softly. "Beyond it lies the trial of reflection." "What exactly does that mean?" Harry asked, glancing nervously at the wall. Dumbledore's eyes met Draco's. "It means Draco must face himself." With a flick of his wand, the wall shimmered and dissolved, revealing a room of mirrored black stone. No light source could be seen, yet the chamber glowed faintly, as if the walls themselves radiated awareness. Draco stepped forward. The moment he entered, the wall reformed behind him, sealing the others out. Inside, silence pressed on him like water. The only sound was his breathing. And then a voice, his own but colder. "So this is the great chosen one." Draco spun to see himself, identical in every way, but with eyes that shimmered silver and a smirk that belonged to his worst instincts. "Who are you?" Draco asked. "Don't be dense," the other said. "I'm you. The part of you that doesn't care about Potter or mudbloods or destiny. I'm the Draco who thrives in shadow. I left that behind." The double laughed. "No, you buried it. But it's still there. And if you want to survive what's coming, you'll need me. I don't need a version of myself that serves darkness." "Then you'll die," the Mirror Draco said coolly. "Because the man who faces Veilhar must walk through fire and shadow alike. Light alone won't carry you." The chamber shook. The mirrors surrounding them rippled, displaying scenes. His father sneering in disappointment, Voldemort smirking in disdain, Dumbledore turning away. Then Harry, standing alone, scar-bleeding, whispering, "You'll betray us, won't you?" Draco turned away. "That's not who I am anymore." "Then prove it," the reflection challenged, drawing a wand. "Defeat me. Or embrace me." A duel began, not of spells, but of will. Each incantation Draco cast, the Mirror Draco matched. Every flame, every shield, every disarming charm collided in sparks and force. Their movements mirrored one another, until sweat poured down Draco's face and his limbs ached. "You can't beat me," the other hissed. "Because I am you." "No," Draco said, lowering his wand. "You're what I used to be. But I've changed." He stepped forward, into the wand's point, and looked his reflection in the eye. "I don't need to destroy you. I need to understand you." The chamber pulsed. The Mirror Draco froze, surprise etched across his features. A wind rose inside the chamber. The reflection began to dissolve, his form breaking into motes of silver light that spiraled around Draco like fireflies. "You've passed the first gate," came a whisper from all directions. "You know the storm, but now you must weather it." Outside the gate, the wall shimmered again and vanished. Draco stepped out, pale and shaking but very much alive. Dumbledore nodded solemnly. "What did you see?" "Myself," Draco said simply. "The version I was afraid I still was." Hermione looked hopeful. "Did you defeat it?" "I accepted it." Harry approached, searching his face. "Then you're ready for the next gate?" "No," Draco said, voice tired. "But I'm willing." That evening, they gathered in the common room of the Room of Requirement. The chamber reshaped into a circular war room filled with maps, floating magical projections, and shelves of texts. Fawkes rested quietly on a perch beside Dumbledore, whose expression was unusually worn. "There are 4 gates," Dumbledore explained, "each tied to an aspect of the self and to Veilhar's prison. The more of them you unlock, the closer you get to the truth." Hermione opened a scroll. "The second gate is said to lie beneath the Forbidden Forest, near the ruins of an ancient druid circle. The texts call it the Trial of Memory." Draco frowned. "Memory?" Luna's voice was soft. "Not just your memories. The ones you've inherited." Draco looked up sharply. "You mean my parents?" Dumbledore nodded gravely. "To pass the next trial, you'll have to face the legacy of the Malfoy name, and decide whether it defines you or ends with you." Draco felt the weight settle again on his chest, but this time he stood straighter. "Then we leave tomorrow." And somewhere deep in the bowels of the castle, something stirred. Something that had waited too long for prophecy to unfold. The early morning mist clung thick to the Forbidden Forest's edge as Draco, Harry, Hermione, Luna, and Dumbledore approached the ancient druid circle. The air was heavy with the scent of moss and damp earth, and the birdsong that usually filled the forest was eerily absent. "This place has held magic older than Hogwarts itself," Dumbledore said, eyes scanning the twisted oaks surrounding them. "The druids once harnessed the power of the earth, binding it to their will through rituals now lost to time." Draco felt a chill crawl down his spine. The druid circle lay before them, a ring of jagged standing stones, weathered and cracked, inscribed with runes that glimmered faintly under the overcast sky. Hermione bent low, tracing the symbols. "This is a place of memory, not just personal, but ancestral. The trial you face here will force you to confront the shadows of your bloodline." "Shadows," Draco repeated, gripping the hilt of his wand tightly. "I've already seen those. Father's ambition, mother's secrets, the weight of everything my family's done." Luna stepped beside him, her voice soft but unwavering. "The past isn't always what it seems. Sometimes it's the lies we tell ourselves." Dumbledore raised his wand, the tip glowing with a pale blue light. We must enter together. The trial binds to the one who steps inside the circle first, but all who follow will be bound by its truth. Draco took a deep breath and stepped forward into the center of the circle. The air hummed as the stones began to pulse with a rhythmic light, casting long shadows that danced across the forest floor. Suddenly, the ground beneath him shifted, and he found himself falling into darkness. He landed on cold stone, the circle gone, replaced by a vast cavern illuminated by flickering torches. Around him, the walls shimmered with shifting images, moments from the past, replaying like ghostly echoes. Draco's breath caught as he recognized scenes from his childhood. His father, Lucius Malfoy, whispering fiercely with Death Eaters. Narcissa standing silently, eyes haunted. Himself, younger and scared, watching in silence as cruelty unfolded. But then the images shifted, showing things he hadn't known. A hidden meeting between his mother and a mysterious figure cloaked in shadow. A young Lucius, hesitating before delivering a final blow in a battle long forgotten. Whispers filled the cavern. Truth lies buried beneath the pride. Draco stepped forward, the voices wrapping around him like vines. He reached out to touch one vision, the one with his mother. Suddenly, a figure materialized in the center of the cavern, a woman, translucent but unmistakable. Her eyes held sorrow and strength. "Why did you hide this from me?" Draco demanded. She smiled sadly. "Because the truth would have shattered you before your time." Her voice echoed as images cascaded around him. Secrets of alliances, betrayals, and sacrifices made in silence. "You carry the burden of a broken legacy," she said softly. "But the future is yours to forge." Draco's heart pounded. He had always thought his family's past was a chain. Now he saw it as a path, twisted, dangerous, but his to walk or break. Outside the circle, Hermione, Harry, and Luna waited anxiously. The runes around the stones pulsed brighter, signaling the trial's progress. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a deep voice echoed through the forest. "Face your truth, or be consumed by it." Draco appeared at the edge of the circle, pale but steady. "I see now," he said, meeting their eyes. "The past isn't just pain or pride. It's the foundation of who I am, but it doesn't have to decide who I become." Dumbledore smiled gently. "You've passed the second gate. The shadows beneath your bloodline no longer hold power over you." Luna tilted her head. "The trial of memory is as much about forgiveness as it is truth." Hermione closed her book. "The next gate lies in the depths of the Black Lake. The trial of courage." Draco swallowed, feeling the weight of what was yet to come. But for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid. The sun dipped low behind the towering turrets of Hogwarts as the group made their way to the shores of the Black Lake. The water's surface was eerily still, reflecting the stormy sky and the distant silhouette of the giant squid lurking beneath. A cold breeze swept across the stones, carrying the scent of algae and secrets. Dumbledore stood beside Draco, his eyes reflecting both concern and pride. "The trial of courage demands more than mere bravery," he explained. "It requires you to face the fears that bind you, the darkness that threatens to drown your spirit." Hermione, clutching a book on magical aquatic creatures, peered curiously at the lake. "The legend says that the trial is guarded by a creature called the Abyssal Wraith. It tests not only one's heart, but the strength of their resolve." Luna, serene as ever, smiled. "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it." Draco's jaw tightened. The memories of the first and second gates still lingered, their weight like chains. But this was different. This challenge would test his very soul. The group reached a small stone dock, ancient and weathered, with runes carved into the wood. Dumbledore raised his wand, and the runes flared with a soft blue light. The water began to ripple, and a glowing archway appeared beneath the surface. "This is your path," Dumbledore said. "You must dive into the depths and confront what lies beneath. Only then can you move forward." Without hesitation, Draco donned his wand and plunged into the cold embrace of the lake. The water closed over his head, and for a moment, the world was silent. Bubbles escaped his lips as he swam downward, the light fading until all that remained was darkness punctuated by faint glimmers of magical energy. Deeper and deeper he went, until the glowing archway disappeared behind him. Suddenly, a shadow shifted in the gloom. a figure cloaked in mist and sorrow, eyes gleaming with ancient pain. The abyssal wraith. Draco's heart thundered, but he steadied his breath. The wraith spoke without words, its presence filling his mind with visions of failure, loss, and despair. The faces of friends he might lose, the burden of choices not yet made. "Face me," the wraith seemed to challenge, "or be lost to the depths." Draco lifted his wand, but the wraith vanished, replaced by a swirling vortex of memories and fears. He saw Hermione trapped beneath collapsing stone, Harry screaming his name in pain, Luna fading into shadow. Tears welled in his eyes, but he clenched his fists. "I won't lose them," he whispered. "I won't lose myself." A sudden burst of light erupted from his wand, illuminating the darkness and pushing back the shadows. The vortex shattered, and the wraith's voice softened. "True courage," it whispered, "is standing firm when all seems lost." Draco kicked upward, breaking through the surface with a gasp. He was met by the worried faces of his friends. Dumbledore helped him to his feet. "You have faced your fears and emerged victorious." Hermione smiled warmly. "The trial of courage is complete." Draco shivered, but this time from relief rather than fear. "What's next?" Dumbledore's gaze grew distant. "The fourth gate lies within the Chamber of Secrets." Harry's eyes widened. "But isn't that where the basilisk is?" Dumbledore nodded gravely. "Yes. The trial of truth requires confronting not just monsters without, but those within." Draco swallowed hard, feeling the final challenge drawing near. For the first time, the weight of destiny pressed upon him with terrifying clarity, but also with the hope of redemption. The sun had long set by the time Draco and his companions stood before the ancient entrance to the Chamber of Secrets. The stone doorway, hidden beneath the school's bathroom floor, loomed like a silent sentinel, its serpent carvings curling menacingly. The very air here was thick with a cold, sinister magic, the kind that prickled at the back of one's neck and stirred uneasy memories. Draco's heart pounded as he reached out to touch the carved serpent's mouth. The faint hiss echoed like a whispered warning. "This place, it's where Salazar Slytherin's darkest secret lies," he murmured, the weight of the past pressing heavily on him. Hermione, standing beside him, was already scanning the runes etched into the stone. The trial of truth will reveal what's hidden beneath the surface, lies, fears, and the core of who you are. Luna, ever calm, added softly, "And sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we keep from ourselves." Dumbledore's eyes shone with a quiet resolve. "Remember, Draco, this trial isn't just about what you uncover in the chamber. It's about facing the truth you hide deep inside." Taking a deep breath, Draco whispered the ancient Parseltongue command. The stone serpent's mouth opened, revealing a twisting staircase descending into darkness. The group followed, the flickering glow of their wands casting eerie shadows on the damp walls. The air grew colder with each step, and an oppressive silence fell upon them, broken only by their careful footsteps. At the chamber's heart, a massive basilisk coiled beneath a stone altar, its emerald eyes closed but powerful. The beast exuded an aura of danger and ancient magic. But it wasn't the basilisk Draco feared most. A shimmering mist rose from the altar, coalescing into a mirror-like surface. It rippled, revealing scenes from Draco's past, moments he had buried beneath layers of pride and resentment. He saw himself, a boy desperate for approval, struggling beneath the shadow of his father's expectations. He saw the night his mother begged him to choose a different path, her eyes full of sorrow. He saw the countless times he had pushed others away, building walls to hide his vulnerability. Tears blurred his vision. "Why did I deny this part of myself for so long?" he whispered. The mirror shimmered again, showing a vision of Harry, extending a hand not in rivalry, but in friendship. "You're not alone," Harry's voice echoed gently. "You never were." The basilisk's eyes snapped open, but instead of attacking, it bowed its massive head. The trial was not about conquering the beast, but about accepting the truth it guarded. That strength comes from embracing one's whole self, even the parts feared or rejected. Draco stepped forward, touching the mirror's surface. "I accept who I am, not just the legacy of Malfoy, but the choices I will make." The chamber brightened as the basilisk slithered away, the stone door ceiling shut behind them. Outside, Hermione smiled. "You've faced the trial of truth and found your own path." Dumbledore nodded. Only one gate remains, the final test. The trial of destiny awaits in the heart of Hogwarts itself. Draco's gaze hardened with determination. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it on his own terms. The corridors of Hogwarts felt different as Draco strode through them, charged with an unspoken tension, as if the very walls whispered of the fate awaiting him. The trial of destiny was no longer a distant challenge. It awaited him in the castle's heart, where ancient magic and the future would collide. Dumbledore led the group toward the Room of Requirement, now transformed into an ethereal chamber bathed in soft golden light. The walls shimmered with symbols of every house, every spell ever cast within these halls. This room, Dumbledore explained, responds to the truest needs of the soul. Here, your final trial will take place. You must face not just the magic of the world, but the choices that will define you. Draco's hands clenched his wand tightly. The weight of his journey pressed upon him, a path marked by pain, courage, truth, and now destiny. Suddenly, the chamber shifted. The walls dissolved into a vast mirror stretching infinitely in every direction. Draco's reflection stared back, but it flickered, showing not just himself but countless versions, each a possible future, a different path. He saw himself as the feared Dark Lord, ruling with iron will, as the boy who walked away from the Malfoy legacy, forging new friendships and healing old wounds, as the hero who stood alongside Harry in the final battle against darkness. A voice echoed softly, Dumbledore's voice. Destiny is not a fixed path, Draco. It is the sum of your choices. From the mirror, a figure stepped forward, an apparition of Voldemort, twisted and menacing. You could embrace your birthright, it hissed, and claim power beyond imagining. Draco's heart hammered, but he met the shadow's gaze with steel. Power gained through fear is no power at all. The apparition's form twisted into a swirl of shadows before dissolving entirely. Suddenly, the chamber trembled as visions of the final battle flashed, friends, enemies, sacrifices, and victories. Draco saw himself standing shoulder to shoulder with Harry, their combined strength turning the tide. Hermione's voice broke through his reverie. You have the power to change everything, Draco. Not because of your blood, but because of your heart. A warmth blossomed within him, a feeling stronger than magic or legacy. Dumbledore smiled, eyes shining. You have passed the trial of destiny. Your path is your own. Draco stepped forward, the mirror dissolving into light. Outside the chamber, the world seemed brighter, filled with endless possibilities. For the first time, Draco Malfoy was not just the chosen one by fate, but by choice. The victory in the Room of Requirement was not just a trial conquered, but a transformation etched into Draco's very soul. As he stepped out into the cool night air, the castle around him felt less like a fortress of secrets and more like a home filled with hope. Yet, the shadows of the past were never far behind. Back in the common room of Slytherin, whispers spread like wildfire. Some students admired Draco's newfound resolve, while others doubted the path he now walked. The house that once thrived on pureblood supremacy was beginning to feel the stirrings of change. Pansy Parkinson, her usual sneer softened by curiosity, approached Draco. So, you're really turning your back on everything we believed in? Draco met her gaze steadily. I'm choosing what I believe in now, not what I was told to. The room fell silent, tension hanging thick. Meanwhile, news of Draco's trials and courage spread quickly through the school. Even Harry Potter, once a rival, offered a nod of respect during their brief encounters in the halls. But not all were ready to accept this shift. In the shadowed corners of the castle, whispers of dark forces gathering grew louder. Voldemort's followers were not idle, and the consequences of Draco's choices rippled far beyond Hogwarts. One night, as Draco prepared to retire to his dormitory, a hooded figure emerged from the darkness. Severus Snape, his expression unreadable. Malfoy, Snape's voice was low but firm. You've chosen a difficult path. Loyalty is tested not by ease, but by hardship. Draco nodded, understanding the gravity behind Snape's words. I'm ready for whatever comes next. Snape's eyes softened momentarily. Good, because the final battle is approaching. And this time, your choices will decide not just your fate, but the fate of the wizarding world. The weight of those words settled heavily on Draco's shoulders. As the stars shimmered above Hogwarts, the line between shadows and light blurred, and the true test of courage and conviction was yet to come. The castle seemed to hold its breath as the days grew darker, both outside and within Hogwarts. Whispers of Voldemort's rising power swirled through the halls, carrying with them unease and fear. The school, once a sanctuary of learning, was slowly becoming a battlefield of loyalties and hidden agendas. Draco sat alone in the Slytherin common room, the flickering fire casting shadows on his face. His thoughts churned like a storm. The path he had chosen had set him apart, from his family, from old friends, and even from himself. Yet every step had also brought clarity. He knew what he stood for now, but he also knew the coming conflict would test him unlike anything before. Hermione entered quietly, breaking his solitude. "You've changed," she said softly. "More than anyone expected." Draco looked up, meeting her earnest gaze. "Not by choice. By necessity." She sat beside him. "The others are preparing, Harry, Ron, even the professors. They know this won't be easy." Draco nodded. "And what about my family?" Hermione's eyes darkened. "Lucius is fully committed to Voldemort's cause. Narcissa, she's conflicted, torn between loyalty to her husband and worry for you." Before Draco could respond, a sudden commotion echoed from the corridor. Students hurried past, faces pale. "Another attack," someone whispered. Dumbledore appeared in the doorway, his expression grave but composed. "Gather everyone in the Great Hall immediately. We must prepare for what is coming." The hall filled quickly with students and staff, the air thick with anticipation. Dumbledore's voice rang clear. "Dark forces are closing in, but together we will stand strong. Draco, you have proven your courage and wisdom. You will join the Order of the Phoenix in the coming battle." A murmur swept through the crowd. Draco's heart pounded, pride and fear mingling. Later that night, Draco stood at the castle's highest tower, looking out over the grounds bathed in moonlight. The calm belied the storm to come. He whispered to the wind, "I will fight, not for legacy, but for the future we can build." The first thunderclap rolled across the sky as the gathering storm began. The days following the announcement passed in a whirlwind. Hogwarts was no longer just a school, but a stronghold preparing for war. Every corner of the castle buzzed with whispered plans and hurried training sessions. The students were no longer children but warriors in the making, each carrying the weight of the coming conflict. Draco found himself thrust into a new role, liaison between the Order of the Phoenix and the students. His natural cunning and deep knowledge of the dark arts made him an invaluable asset, even to those who still eyed him with suspicion. One afternoon, as the sun filtered weakly through the gray skies, Draco sat in the room of requirement with Harry, Hermione, and Ron. The tension between them was palpable, yet underlaid with a cautious respect. "We have to trust each other," Harry said firmly. "Our only chance is to stand united." Draco nodded. "I've spent years fighting against that. Now I'll do whatever it takes to make sure we all survive." Hermione glanced at him with a tentative smile. "You're proving that people can change." The room shimmered as the door opened, revealing Luna Lovegood, her dreamy eyes alight with determination. "I've found something," she said softly, holding out a folded parchment. "A way to weaken Voldemort's connection to his Horcruxes." The group leaned in as Luna unfurled the map, intricate runes and symbols glowing faintly. It was a risk, but a chance they could not ignore. As plans solidified, Draco reached out to his former allies, seeking to rally those who had been lost to darkness. It wasn't easy. Old grudges and mistrust clung stubbornly. But with every hand shaken and every promise made, the web of resistance grew stronger. One evening, as Draco walked the moonlit grounds, a familiar voice called out, "Malfoy!" He turned to see Blaise Zabini, once a cold rival, now standing with a look of reluctant respect. "I'm with you," Blaise said simply. "Let's end this." Draco felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps even in the darkest of times, new alliances could be forged, stronger than any magic. The war was coming, but so was their unity. Hogwarts had never felt more alive, and yet never more haunted. The castle's ancient stones seemed to murmur secrets, carrying the weight of centuries of magic, battles, and hidden truths. As the war drew closer, Draco found himself wandering the halls late into the night, searching not just for answers but for understanding. One evening, the room of requirement called to him again, its walls shifting until it became a vast library filled with tomes of forgotten knowledge. Draco ran his fingers along the spines, feeling the pulse of magic beneath the dust. A sudden flicker of movement caught his eye, a figure in a hooded cloak, stepping from the shadows. "Professor Snape," Draco said, surprise mixing with cautious hope. Snape's dark eyes met his. "You seek knowledge to face the darkness. But remember, knowledge alone is not enough. Wisdom is knowing how and when to use it." Draco nodded, his resolve hardening. Snape handed him an ancient, leather-bound book inscribed with protective spells and counter curses. "This may help against the magic Voldemort wields. But be warned, the castle itself will challenge you. Hogwarts has its own will." Over the following days, Draco studied the book obsessively. He practiced spells in secret, learning to sense the subtle magic woven through the castle's stones. One night, as he walked near the Forbidden Forest, the walls of Hogwarts shimmered, revealing hidden passageways and long-forgotten chambers. Whispers echoed, warnings and guidance from the founders themselves, guardians of the school's secrets. With every discovery, Draco felt the immense responsibility settling on his shoulders. This was not just a fight for survival. It was a battle to protect the legacy of Hogwarts, of magic itself. As the castle's whispers guided him deeper into its heart, Draco understood that the true power lay not in dark spells or ancient artifacts, but in courage, loyalty, and the choices yet to be made. The war was coming, and Hogwarts was ready to stand with its chosen guardian. The calm before the storm was shattered as the first signs of Voldemort's forces infiltrating the wizarding world became undeniable. Reports of attacks on Muggle and magical communities alike reached Hogwarts daily, each tale darker than the last. The weight of impending war pressed on everyone's minds, but for Draco, the burden felt especially heavy. In the Great Hall, the Order of the Phoenix convened in urgent secrecy. Dumbledore's presence was steady but grave, his eyes reflecting the countless battles yet to come. "We cannot wait for the darkness to find us," Dumbledore said firmly. "We must strike first, weaken Voldemort's reach before it's too late." Draco's voice broke through the murmurs. "I've been gathering allies, those still loyal to the light but hesitant to act. If we coordinate with them, we could launch a surprise attack." Harry nodded. "We need every hand we can get." Plans took shape quickly. Teams formed, each tasked with missions to dismantle the Death Eaters' networks and protect vulnerable communities. Draco was assigned to lead a group targeting a hidden base rumored to be a hub for Voldemort's spies. The night before the mission, Draco stood beneath the ancient banners of Slytherin, feeling the weight of his family's legacy intertwining with his own destiny. Memories of past mistakes and lost opportunities flickered through his mind, but they no longer chained him. "This is our chance," he whispered to himself, "to change everything." As dawn broke, Draco and his team moved out, shadows slipping through the mist toward their target. The air was thick with tension, every step a gamble between survival and sacrifice. Inside the hidden base, Death Eaters gathered, unaware that the tide was about to turn. The clash of spells echoed through the night, light against dark, hope against fear. Draco fought with every ounce of strength and courage, knowing this was more than a battle. It was the beginning of a new era. The clash inside the hidden base was fierce and unforgiving. Spells flew like streaks of lightning, illuminating the dark chambers with bursts of green, red, and blue. Draco's heart hammered in his chest, every instinct screaming for survival, every ounce of his training pushing him forward. His team moved like shadows, precise and relentless. Blaze cast protective barriers while Pansy and Theodore flanked the enemies with dazzling hexes. Yet, despite their skill, the Death Eaters' numbers were daunting, their hatred and desperation fueling every curse. Draco's eyes locked onto a familiar figure, a tall Death Eater with a twisted smile, his wand raised and ready. For a moment, memories surged, of childhood confrontations, of words spoken in venom. This was no longer the boy he had been. This was the man who would fight for a future free from fear. With a shout, Draco launched a spell, a brilliant jet of blue light that struck true. The enemy staggered, retreating into the shadows. But the battle was far from over. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the chamber. Debris rained down as the base trembled, ancient enchantments weakening under the onslaught. Draco felt the heat of flames licking at his skin and the desperate cries of his friends echoing around him. "Retreat!" Draco commanded, voice steady despite the chaos. "Get out now." They fought their way through collapsing corridors, the oppressive smoke choking their lungs. Draco's wand flicked constantly, shielding and striking as they raced toward the exit. Just as they burst into the cold night air, the base erupted behind them in a fiery inferno. The flames roared, consuming the darkness, a symbol of both destruction and hope. Breathless and battered, Draco looked around at his team, alive, determined, changed. The war had just begun, but for the first time, victory felt within reach. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," Draco said quietly, "but for everyone who believes in a better world." The firelight danced in his eyes, fierce and unwavering. The days after the raid on the Death Eater's base were a strange mixture of adrenaline and exhaustion. Hogwarts buzzed with news of their small victory, whispers of hope threading through corridors once heavy with dread. Yet beneath that fragile optimism lay a deepening shadow. The war was far from over, and the forces gathering against them were growing more ruthless by the day. Draco Malfoy found himself awake in the dead of night more often than not. He would stand by the window of his dormitory, staring out over the darkened grounds, the cold air brushing against his skin as if to wake him from the restless thoughts that plagued him. His mind wasn't just filled with plans and strategies anymore. It was consumed by questions he couldn't yet answer. What was the cost of his choices? How much of his family's legacy was truly his burden, and how much could he change? Every day, he wrestled with the ghosts of his past, the sneers, the alliances with darkness, the moments he wished he could erase. But now, standing on the precipice of a war that would decide everything, Draco knew that regret alone would not save him, nor those he cared for. One evening, after a long day of training with the Order and teaching younger students defensive spells, Draco found himself walking toward the astronomy tower. The sky was a tapestry of stars, cold and distant, indifferent to the struggles below. As he reached the top, he saw a familiar figure already there, Luna Lovegood, her silvery hair glowing softly in the moonlight. "You're thinking too much again," Luna said without turning. "The stars don't judge, you know." Draco chuckled quietly, settling beside her. "Sometimes I wish I could be as detached as they are." Luna smiled, her eyes bright with that strange mixture of wisdom and innocence she always carried. "It's not detachment. It's perspective. Sometimes when everything feels overwhelming, it helps to remember how small we really are, and yet how much power we hold." Draco looked up at the sky, tracing constellations that danced beyond the reach of magic or war. "I'm scared, Luna. I never thought I'd be the one carrying this responsibility. The Chosen One, it sounds like a title from a storybook, but it feels more like a chain around my neck." Luna tilted her head, considering. "Being chosen doesn't mean you have to carry the weight alone. The stars work together, connected by invisible threads. So do we." The words settled over him like a bomb, soothing but also igniting a renewed determination. The next morning, Draco met with Dumbledore in his office. The headmaster's serene face was lined with worry, but his eyes held that same unwavering faith. "Draco," Dumbledore began, "your progress is impressive. The way you've united factions within the school, the courage you've shown in battle, but the road ahead will test you in ways you have yet to imagine." Draco nodded. "I'm ready to face whatever comes." Dumbledore's gaze grew sharp, serious. "Good, because there are secrets hidden deep within Hogwarts that may change everything you think you know about this war, and yourself." Intrigued and unsettled, Draco pressed. "What kind of secrets?" "Ancient magic, older than even the founders of this school. It lies beneath the castle, protected by enchantments and wards. If we can uncover it, it might give us an edge, or it might demand a price." Draco swallowed hard, the weight of this new revelation settling like stone in his stomach. "Where do I begin?" Dumbledore handed him a small, ornately carved key. "The Chamber of Echoes. If you know its location. It is said to hold the memories of those who came before us, their voices captured in time." Draco's fingers closed around the key, cold and heavy. "I won't let you down." As he left the office, Draco felt the gravity of his destiny pulling him forward. He was no longer the boy shackled by his family's expectations or his own fears. He was the chosen one, not because of fate, but because he had chosen to fight for what was right. That night, under the watchful eyes of the stars, Draco prepared to descend into the depths of Hogwarts, into the unknown. The shadows whispered secrets, and he was ready to listen. The key was cold and heavy in Draco's hand as he made his way through the twisting corridors of Hogwarts, the castle quiet except for the soft echo of his footsteps. Every stone seemed to watch him, ancient and knowing. He was heading to a place few had ever seen, a chamber whispered about only in legends and the hushed tones of the oldest portraits. The map Dumbledore had given him was vague, a mere sketch of hidden corridors beneath the castle. Draco's heart pounded with a mixture of excitement and dread. What lay beneath Hogwarts could change everything. It could turn the tide of the war, or consume him in secrets better left buried. He found the concealed entrance behind a tapestry depicting the Founders' gathering, a narrow stairwell spiraling downward into darkness. Pulling his wand, he whispered, "Lumos," and the tip glowed softly, illuminating ancient stone steps slick with moisture. As he descended, the air grew cooler, heavier with magic thick like a living presence. When he reached the bottom, a vast chamber opened before him. Vaulted ceilings arched overhead, walls lined with crystalline prisms that pulsed faintly, reflecting ghostly colors across the floor. In the center stood a pedestal, and upon it, an orb shimmering with misty light. Draco approached cautiously, feeling the weight of countless memories trapped within. "Voices," he whispered, reaching out. The moment his fingers brushed the orb, a chorus of whispers filled the chamber, fragments of conversations, laughter, warnings, and spells. Faces flickered in the mist, students, professors, founders, and heroes long gone. They spoke of battles fought, sacrifices made, and powers harnessed. Draco saw the founders, Godric Gryffindor, Salazar Slytherin, Helga Hufflepuff, and Rowena Ravenclaw, each guarding secrets of their houses, their strengths woven into the castle's very soul. Suddenly, a voice rose above the others, firm and commanding. "Chosen one," it said. "To wield the magic of old is to accept the burden of balance. Light and shadow, creation and destruction. Seek the mirror of time within the chamber. But beware, it shows not only the past and future, but the deepest truth within your heart." Draco's mind reeled. A test, then. More than magic or power. This was about facing himself. His fingers tingled with energy as he explored the chamber, following ethereal paths traced by the Founders' whispers. He found a hidden door, ancient runes glowing faintly on its surface. Drawing strength from the orb, he spoke the incantation that formed in his mind, and the door swung open, revealing a smaller room bathed in silvery light. There, resting on a pedestal draped with velvet, was the mirror of time. Its surface rippled like water, reflecting not his present but shifting scenes, his past intertwined with possible futures, victories and failures dancing in flickering visions. Draco felt the room grow colder, the weight of choice pressing down on him. To look was to risk exposure, truths he might not be ready to face. Steeling himself, he stepped forward and gazed into the mirror. Images flooded his mind, moments from his childhood, the days he had felt powerless, the turning points that shaped his destiny. But more than that, he saw paths he might take, leading friends into victory or plunging them into darkness. The face of Voldemort, but also the face of his own potential. He understood now what the voice meant. This was not just a tool to glimpse time, but a mirror to his soul. With a deep breath, Draco reached out and touched the glass. A surge of magic coursed through him, and for a moment, he was everywhere and everywhen, past, present, future, all connected. When he pulled back, his eyes were clearer, his resolve deeper. He had glimpsed the many faces of the war ahead. And no matter the challenges, no matter the sacrifices, he was ready to face them. Emerging from the chamber, the whispers of the castle followed him, as if the very walls acknowledged their chosen guardian. The fight was far from over. But Draco Malfoy, the chosen one, was no longer afraid. The days following Draco's journey into the Chamber of Echoes were unlike any other at Hogwarts. A quiet determination settled over him, subtle yet unshakable. His classmates noticed the change, his gaze steadier, his movements more deliberate, his presence commanding without arrogance. He was no longer just a boy burdened by fate. He was becoming a leader. News of the raid on the Death Eater base had spread, bolstering the morale of those resisting Voldemort's darkness. Yet, the war's toll was evident. More students had taken to secret training, and the Order of the Phoenix had increased its presence within the school, preparing for the inevitable confrontations ahead. Draco knew that power alone wouldn't win this war. It was alliances, trust, and unbreakable bonds that would see them through. He began reaching out, sometimes awkwardly, to those he once dismissed, seeking to build a coalition stronger than any one wizard alone. One afternoon, he found himself walking the castle grounds with Hermione Granger. Their past rivalry and mutual wariness had softened into something more complex, a shared respect born from hardship. "Hermione," Draco began hesitantly, "I want to make sure we're all ready together." She looked at him, surprised but guarded. "It's about time you said that." They discussed strategies, pooling knowledge. Hermione's brilliant mind was a force, her passion for justice a flame Draco admired. Despite their differences, they found common ground. Later, Draco met with Harry Potter. The tension was palpable. Two rivals turned allies, each carrying the weight of destiny. "Draco," Harry said quietly, "we don't have to be enemies." "No," Draco replied, "not anymore. We fight the same battle now." Their handshake was brief but meaningful, an unspoken pact forged in the heat of war. As days passed, Draco's team grew. Blaise, Pansy, Theodore, Luna, and even unexpected allies like Neville Longbottom stood united. They trained relentlessly, mastering spells, sharing intel, and preparing for what was to come. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Draco gathered his closest friends in the room of requirement. The space transformed into a war room, walls lined with maps, enchanted texts, and magical devices humming softly. "We don't know when the next strike will come," Draco said, eyes scanning their faces. "But when it does, we'll be ready." The room hummed with energy, hope, and unspoken fears. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Professor McGonagall stepped in, her face grave. "There's news from the Order," she said. "Voldemort's forces are mobilizing near Hogsmeade. They're planning something." A hush fell over the group. The war was no longer distant, it was at their doorstep. Draco stood, his voice steady. "Then we'll meet them head-on." Outside, the castle stood tall against the gathering storm. Inside, bonds forged in fire and trust would be tested like never before. The Chosen One was ready to lead. The morning mist clung to the grounds outside Hogwarts as Draco Malfoy and his allies gathered in the shadow of the castle walls. The news of Voldemort's approaching forces spread like wildfire, igniting a fierce resolve among the defenders. Every student and member of the Order who could wield a wand was preparing for the inevitable clash. Draco stood with Harry, Hermione, Luna, and the others, the weight of command heavy on his shoulders. The air was thick with tension and unspoken fears, but also an undeniable spark of hope. They were united, not just by necessity, but by a shared belief in the future they fought to protect. As the sun rose, casting pale light over the silent village of Hogsmeade, dark figures appeared on the horizon. Death Eaters clad in black robes surged forward, their spells tearing through the morning air like deadly bolts. The battle had begun. Draco raised his wand, voice clear and commanding. "Shield charms. Protect the villagers and the castle grounds." Spells flew in brilliant arcs, lighting up the sky in bursts of emerald, ruby, and sapphire. Draco moved through the chaos with purpose, deflecting curses, directing others, and striking where the enemy was weakest. At one point, he found himself face to face with a familiar enemy, a Death Eater who had once taunted him mercilessly during his early years at Hogwarts. The man sneered, wand raised, but Draco's confidence did not waver. "This ends now," Draco said firmly, and with a swift movement, disarmed the Death Eater, sending his wand skittering across the ground. Elsewhere, Hermione and Luna worked together to shield injured students, while Harry battled fiercely alongside Neville and Blaise. The air was thick with the roar of magic, cries of defiance, and the heavy thud of spells hitting their marks. Despite their determination, the Death Eaters were relentless, pushing forward with brutal force. Draco caught sight of a group moving toward the village square. Their target was clear: the ancient protective wards that kept Hogsmeade safe. Racing ahead, Draco and Pansy intercepted them, weaving complex counter-curses and protective spells. The fight was desperate, every moment stretching taut with danger. In the heat of battle, Draco's thoughts flickered to his family, their hopes, fears, and the sacrifices made. This fight was more than a battle for survival. It was a fight for redemption, for the future of everyone he loved. As the sun climbed higher, the tide slowly turned. The defenders' resolve, combined with Draco's leadership, began to break the Death Eater's advance. One by one, enemy wizards were pushed back or captured. When the dust finally settled, the battlefield was silent except for the labored breaths of the survivors. Though bruised and weary, the defenders had won. Draco stood among them, gaze steady but thoughtful. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. "We held the line today," he said quietly, "but we must be ready for what comes next." The sky above Hogsmeade was clear now, the morning light shining on scars both visible and unseen. And in that light, Draco Malfoy, the Chosen One, understood the true cost of leadership and the unyielding courage it demanded. The victory at Hogsmeade was celebrated quietly within the walls of Hogwarts. Though bruised and weary, the defenders took solace in their success, but Draco felt an unease gnawing at him beneath the surface. The battle had been fierce, but it had also revealed fractures, not just among the enemy, but within their own ranks. That evening, Draco convened a meeting in the Room of Requirement. The familiar war room glowed softly under enchanted lamps, but the atmosphere was heavy. His friends gathered, faces marked with exhaustion and concern. "We won today, but the cost was high," Draco began. "And there's something else, something I can't shake." Hermione frowned, leaning forward. "What is it?" Draco hesitated, then continued. "There are whispers, rumors that some within Hogwarts are sympathizing with the Death Eaters. That there might be spies in our midst." Luna's eyes widened, and Neville's jaw clenched. Pansy looked away, uncomfortable. Harry's voice was steady but urgent. "We've all felt it, the tension, the suspicion. But if we start turning on each other, we weaken ourselves." "Still," Draco said, "we can't ignore it. We need to be vigilant." Over the next days, Draco and his inner circle began discreet investigations. They observed, questioned, and pieced together fragments of unsettling information. Certain students' behaviors, unusual disappearances of magical items, coded messages hidden in everyday conversations. Draco's mind churned with doubt and distrust, the line between caution and paranoia blurring. He found himself second-guessing allies he had once trusted implicitly. One night, as he pored over notes in the library, a soft voice interrupted. "Draco." He looked up to see Blaise, his closest confidant. "We need to talk." Blaise's expression was serious. "There's something you should know. I overheard a conversation. Death Eaters planning to infiltrate the castle during the upcoming full moon. They want to strike when we least expect it." Draco's heart sank. The war was coming closer, faster than he'd feared. "We have to prepare," Draco said, resolve hardening. "But more than that, we need to unite. No more secrets, no more divisions." As the castle settled into uneasy silence, Draco understood the true enemy wasn't just Voldemort and his followers, but the shadows of doubt creeping into their own hearts. The battle ahead would test not only their magic but their trust, loyalty, and the very bonds that held them together. And Draco, the Chosen One, would have to lead through the darkness, or risk losing everything. The full moon hung high over Hogwarts, its pale light casting long, eerie shadows through the castle corridors. A restless quiet had settled over the school, but Draco Malfoy knew better than to trust the silence. The whispered warnings Blaise had uncovered echoed in his mind as he moved carefully through the dim halls, wand at the ready. Draco had spent the day coordinating defenses with the Order and student allies. Protective wards pulsed faintly along the castle's outer walls, enchantments layered thick to guard against infiltration. Still, the weight of impending danger pressed down on him like a storm cloud. In the common room, Hermione, Luna, and Pansy prepared potions and charms while Neville checked magical barriers, his hands trembling slightly. Harry stood near a window, eyes scanning the moonlit grounds with sharp vigilance. Suddenly, a chilling scream shattered the night's calm. "Death Eaters!" Draco shouted, sprinting toward the source. Explosions of magic erupted, bright and violent, as figures cloaked in black burst through hidden entrances and attempted to overwhelm the defenses. Draco was at the forefront, casting shield charms, sending powerful hexes flying and rallying his friends to hold the line. The battle inside the castle was fierce, corridors alight with spell fire, the air thick with the acrid smell of burnt magic. He spotted a group heading toward the trophy room, where ancient relics and powerful artifacts were stored. Draco's heart raced. If those fell into enemy hands, the consequences would be catastrophic. Without hesitation, he darted forward, intercepting the attackers. A fierce duel erupted between Draco and a masked Death Eater, their spells colliding with explosive force. The Death Eater's strikes were vicious and relentless, but Draco's resolve was stronger. Behind him, Hermione and Luna worked together to contain another group, their combined magic weaving intricate barriers and healing the wounded. As the battle raged, Draco caught sight of a figure slipping away from the main fight. Malfoy's instincts screamed it was a traitor among their own. Without breaking focus, he sent a subtle spell to alert Harry, who quickly gave chase. In the chaos, Draco managed to disarm the Death Eater guarding the trophy room, securing the artifacts just in time. Exhausted but unyielding, he turned to find his friends gathering, battered but victorious. The invaders had been repelled, but the cost was visible: damaged walls, injured allies, and the undeniable truth that Voldemort's forces were growing bolder. Breathing heavily, Draco looked around at the determined faces of those who stood with him. "We survived tonight," he said, voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through him. "But the war isn't over. We need to be stronger, smarter, and ready for whatever comes next." The full moon began to wane, but the fight for Hogwarts and the future was far from finished. The dawn broke slowly over Hogwarts, casting a pale light on a castle scarred by the night's brutal assault. The full moon had passed, but its violent shadow lingered in the hearts of everyone who had fought through the darkness. The battle had tested them beyond anything they'd imagined, and the aftermath weighed heavily on Draco Malfoy's shoulders. The Great Hall had been transformed into a makeshift infirmary. Rows of beds lined the walls, filled with students and members of the Order nursing wounds, both physical and magical. The air was thick with whispered prayers, the soft rustle of bandages, and the steady pulse of healing spells. Draco stood at the center, his usual composure fractured. The fatigue underlined by the steady ache in his muscles reminded him he was only human. But there was no time to rest. The battle had revealed cracks, not just in the castle's defenses, but in the fragile trust between its defenders. Hermione approached him, her face drawn and serious. "We need to talk about what happened last night. About the traitor." Draco nodded, his eyes darkening. "Yes. Whoever they are, they risked everything. We can't let this betrayal go unanswered." The investigation began immediately. Secret conversations, subtle glances, and careful observations filled the days that followed. Suspicion rippled through the halls like a cold wind. Some students whispered behind closed doors. Others avoided Draco's gaze entirely. Pansy Parkinson was among those who seemed unusually distant, and Draco caught her avoiding him more than once. He wanted to believe in his friends, but the betrayal from within cut deeper than any enemy attack. One evening, as Draco reviewed the day's findings in the Room of Requirement, a sudden knock interrupted him. It was Blaise Zabini, looking more serious than usual. "I found something," Blaise said, pulling out a folded parchment. "A coded message intercepted between Death Eaters. It mentions a mole inside Hogwarts." Draco unfolded the parchment carefully. The writing was cryptic but unmistakable. Someone within their ranks was feeding information to Voldemort's followers. The chilling truth settled over Draco like ice. "We need to root them out," Draco said firmly. "But carefully. If we accuse the wrong person, it could destroy what little trust we have left." Harry, who had joined them quietly, added, "This mole has been undermining us for months. They know our plans, our movements. That's how the Death Eaters got in so easily last night." Draco clenched his fists, rage and frustration boiling beneath his calm exterior. The Chosen One was supposed to be a beacon of hope, a leader to unite everyone. But now, doubt gnawed at the foundation of everything he had fought for. Despite the tension, Draco summoned his courage and called a gathering of his closest allies. In the flickering candlelight, they vowed to stand united, to protect each other and Hogwarts at all costs. The war was no longer just between light and dark. It was a battle for the very souls of those they called friends. As the sun set over the scarred castle, Draco vowed silently that no matter the cost, he would uncover the traitor and bring them to justice. For Hogwarts. For his friends. For the future he was destined to protect. The dawn broke slowly over Hogwarts, casting a pale light on a castle scarred by the night's brutal assault. The full moon had passed, but its violent shadow lingered in the hearts of everyone who had fought through the darkness. The battle had tested them beyond anything they'd imagined, and the aftermath weighed heavily on Draco Malfoy's shoulders. The Great Hall had been transformed into a makeshift infirmary. Rows of beds lined the walls, filled with students and members of the Order nursing wounds, both physical and magical. The air was thick with whispered prayers, the soft rustle of bandages, and the steady pulse of healing spells. Draco stood at the center, his usual composure fractured. The fatigue underlined by the steady ache in his muscles reminded him he was only human. But there was no time to rest. The battle had revealed cracks, not just in the castle's defenses, but in the fragile trust between its defenders. Hermione approached him, her face drawn and serious. "We need to talk about what happened last night. About the traitor." Draco nodded, his eyes darkening. "Yes. Whoever they are, they risked everything. We can't let this betrayal go unanswered." The investigation began immediately. Secret conversations, subtle glances, and careful observations filled the days that followed. Suspicion rippled through the halls like a cold wind. Some students whispered behind closed doors. Others avoided Draco's gaze entirely. Pansy Parkinson was among those who seemed unusually distant, and Draco caught her avoiding him more than once. He wanted to believe in his friends, but the betrayal from within cut deeper than any enemy attack. One evening, as Draco reviewed the day's findings in the room of requirement, a sudden knock interrupted him. It was Blaise Zabini, looking more serious than usual. "I found something," Blaise said, pulling out a folded parchment. "A coded message intercepted between Death Eaters. It mentions a mole inside Hogwarts." Draco unfolded the parchment carefully. The writing was cryptic but unmistakable. Someone within their ranks was feeding information to Voldemort's followers. The chilling truth settled over Draco like ice. "We need to root them out," Draco said firmly. "But carefully. If we accuse the wrong person, it could destroy what little trust we have left." Harry, who had joined them quietly, added, "This mole has been undermining us for months. They know our plans, our movements. That's how the Death Eaters got in so easily last night." Draco clenched his fists, rage and frustration boiling beneath his calm exterior. The Chosen One was supposed to be a beacon of hope, a leader to unite everyone. But now, doubt gnawed at the foundation of everything he had fought for. Despite the tension, Draco summoned his courage and called a gathering of his closest allies. In the flickering candlelight, they vowed to stand united, to protect each other and Hogwarts at all costs. The war was no longer just between light and dark. It was a battle for the very souls of those they called friends. As the sun set over the scarred castle, Draco vowed silently that no matter the cost, he would uncover the traitor and bring them to justice. For Hogwarts. For his friends. For the future he was destined to protect. The dark spell slammed into Draco's shield, the force rattling his bones but not breaking his concentration. The flickering torchlight in the narrow corridor threw eerie shadows against the damp stone walls as the duel intensified. His adversary moved with practiced ease, weaving curses that hissed like serpents through the air, each one more deadly than the last. Draco countered with precise strikes, his mind sharp despite the adrenaline flooding his veins. He couldn't let this traitor escape, not after all the sacrifices, the bloodshed. Around them, Hermione and Blaise flanked the corridor, ready to support or block any retreat. "Who are you?" Draco demanded between spells, desperation edging his voice. "Why betray Hogwarts?" The figures had slipped back slightly, revealing a pale face marked with cold determination. "I am the necessary darkness," they said, voice low and resolute. "Voldemort's vision is inevitable. You can't stop it." Draco's heart clenched at the words. Was this person truly convinced? Or were they just a pawn, blinded by fear or ambition? A fierce jet of green light shot toward Blaise, who narrowly deflected it, sending the Death Eater staggering but still fighting. Hermione quickly cast a binding spell, trying to hold the traitor in place. The figure twisted, breaking free with a cry and lunging toward an ancient, rune-etched door at the corridor's end. Draco surged after them, but the trapdoor swung open to reveal a hidden chamber bathed in eerie green light. Inside, ancient relics and dusty tomes lined the walls. The traitor's eyes gleamed as they reached for a peculiar artifact, a twisted serpent-shaped amulet pulsing with dark magic. "No!" Draco shouted, casting a stunning spell that hit the traitor squarely in the chest. The figure collapsed, dropping the amulet, which clattered onto the stone floor. Breathing hard, Draco stepped forward, staring down at the fallen traitor. It was someone he had never suspected. Theodore Knott, a quiet but gifted Slytherin student. The betrayal stung deeper than wounds. Hermione approached cautiously, eyes wide. "He's been feeding information to the Death Eaters, and trying to use this amulet to weaken Hogwarts' protections." Draco picked up the amulet, feeling its cold pulse against his skin. The dark magic within it was ancient and powerful, far beyond what he had ever encountered. As they bound Theodore with ropes of enchanted silver, Draco's mind swirled with questions. How many more like him were there? And what would Voldemort's next move be? Outside, the sun was rising, casting golden light through the narrow dungeon windows. For a moment, Draco allowed himself to hope. They had caught the traitor, disrupted a deadly plan. But the war was far from over. He glanced around at his friends, tired, bruised, but unbroken. They were the light standing against the darkness. And Draco Malfoy was ready to lead them. The days following the full moon assault were haunted by a suffocating silence. Hogwarts had returned to its daily rhythm, classes resumed, and the usual hum of student chatter filled the corridors. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmered, thick and heavy like a gathering storm. Draco Malfoy moved through the castle like a shadow, his senses sharp, his mind racing with every piece of information he could gather. The traitor's presence was a poison that threatened to unravel everything they had fought for. Every whispered conversation, every furtive glance could be a clue, or a trap. He had divided his closest allies into small groups, tasked with watching, listening, and reporting anything suspicious. Hermione was his trusted second-in-command. Her keen intellect and unrelenting dedication were invaluable. Luna's uncanny intuition and Neville's steadfast courage made them key players in this delicate game. But suspicion was a double-edged sword. As they tightened their net, fractures began to appear even among their own. Some allies bristled under the scrutiny. Others withdrew, afraid to be falsely accused. One evening, Draco sat in the room of requirement, the shifting walls reflecting the turmoil inside him. His gaze was fixed on a map of the castle, studded with notes and magical markers showing recent incidents. Disappearances, broken wards, coded messages intercepted. A soft knock drew his attention. Blaise entered quietly, carrying a small, rolled parchment. "I found this tucked inside the library archives," Blaise said, spreading the parchment on the table. The writing was jagged and hurried, but Draco's sharp eyes caught the key phrase. The serpent coils closest to the heart. The metaphor was clear. Someone close, someone trusted, was the mole. Draco's mind reeled. Could it be someone in his own circle? The thought twisted inside him, bitter and cold. Suddenly, the door burst open. Hermione rushed in, her face pale but determined. "We have a lead," she said, breathless. Professor McGonagall noticed strange activity near the Slytherin common room last night. Unexplained magical signatures, like someone using advanced concealment spells. Draco's heart pounded. "We need to investigate. Now!" They moved swiftly, making their way to the shadowed entrance of the dungeons. The air grew colder, heavier, as if the walls themselves held their breath. Inside, faint magical traces shimmered, detectable only by those trained to sense them. Hermione led, tracing the energy back to a concealed passage behind a tapestry. With a flick of her wand, the tapestry parted to reveal a narrow corridor, dust motes dancing in the dim light. "Be ready for anything," Draco whispered, wand raised. They crept forward, the silence broken only by the soft sound of their footsteps. At the end of the corridor, a figure stood, back to them, murmuring incantations under their breath. The cloak was familiar, the green and silver of Slytherin, but the hood hid the face. "Stop!" Draco commanded, voice cutting through the silence like a blade. The figure turned, eyes wide with surprise, and then cold fury. You think you can catch me so easily? The voice was unmistakable. You're blind to the real threat, Malfoy. Draco's grip tightened on his wand. Who are you working for? A cruel smile curved the figure's lips. Let's just say I'm protecting the future. A future you won't live to see. Before Draco could respond, a blast of dark magic erupted from the figure's wand. The battle had begun anew, the web of betrayal tightening around them all. The dark spell slammed into Draco's shield, the force rattling his bones but not breaking his concentration. The flickering torchlight in the narrow corridor threw eerie shadows against the damp stone walls as the duel intensified. His adversary moved with practiced ease, weaving curses that hissed like serpents through the air, each one more deadly than the last. Draco countered with precise strikes, his mind sharp despite the adrenaline flooding his veins. He couldn't let this traitor escape, not after all the sacrifices, the bloodshed. Around them, Hermione and Blaise flanked the corridor, ready to support or block any retreat. Who are you? Draco demanded between spells, desperation edging his voice. Why betray Hogwarts? The figures had slipped back slightly, revealing a pale face marked with cold determination. I am the necessary darkness, they said, voice low and resolute. Voldemort's vision is inevitable. You can't stop it. Draco's heart clenched at the words. Was this person truly convinced? Or were they just a pawn, blinded by fear or ambition? A fierce jet of green light shot toward Blaise, who narrowly deflected it, sending the Death Eater staggering but still fighting. Hermione quickly cast a binding spell, trying to hold the traitor in place. The figure twisted, breaking free with a cry and lunging toward an ancient, rune-etched door at the corridor's end. Draco surged after them, but the trapdoor swung open to reveal a hidden chamber bathed in eerie green light. Inside, ancient relics and dusty tomes lined the walls. The traitor's eyes gleamed as they reached for a peculiar artifact, a twisted serpent-shaped amulet pulsing with dark magic. No! Draco shouted, casting a stunning spell that hit the traitor squarely in the chest. The figure collapsed, dropping the amulet, which clattered onto the stone floor. Breathing hard, Draco stepped forward, staring down at the fallen traitor. It was someone he had never suspected. Theodore Nott, a quiet but gifted Slytherin student. The betrayal stung deeper than wounds. Hermione approached cautiously, eyes wide. He's been feeding information to the Death Eaters, and trying to use this amulet to weaken Hogwarts' protections. Draco picked up the amulet, feeling its cold pulse against his skin. The dark magic within it was ancient and powerful, far beyond what he had ever encountered. As they bound Theodore with ropes of enchanted silver, Draco's mind swirled with questions. How many more like him were there? And what would Voldemort's next move be? Outside, the sun was rising, casting golden light through the narrow dungeon windows. For a moment, Draco allowed himself to hope. They had caught the traitor, disrupted a deadly plan. But the war was far from over. He glanced around at his friends, tired, bruised, but unbroken. They were the light standing against the darkness. And Draco Malfoy was ready to lead them. The early morning light filtered weakly through the stained glass windows of the dungeon chamber, casting fractured colors over the quiet scene. Theodore Nott lay unconscious, bound by shimmering silver ropes that pulsed faintly with protective enchantments. Around him, Draco Malfoy, Hermione Granger, Blaise Zabini, and Neville Longbottom stood in tense silence, each lost in thought as the weight of recent events settled upon them. Draco's mind was a whirlwind. The betrayal had cut deep, not just because Theodore was one of their own, but because it showed how easily darkness could seep into even the most guarded places. His role as the Chosen One, the leader meant to protect Hogwarts, felt heavier than ever. Hermione broke the silence softly. We have to alert the Order. This amulet, it's more dangerous than we realized. If Voldemort gets hold of it, it could undo all the protections around Hogwarts, and worse. Draco nodded, determination hardening his features. We need to prepare. The Death Eaters will come again, stronger and more desperate. Blaise glanced toward the dungeon entrance. The castle's wards are still recovering from the attack. If the amulet weakens them further, we might not have much time. Neville stepped forward, his usually gentle voice firm with resolve. Then we train harder. We learn everything we can. We become the defenders Hogwarts needs. The group exchanged looks of agreement. The battle for Hogwarts was far from over, but they were no longer simply students caught in a war. They were warriors, each carrying the weight of a future that depended on their courage and unity. As Draco looked out the narrow window toward the looming towers of the castle, he felt a surge of resolve. He would not let the darkness claim his home, nor would he let fear dictate their fate. The rising storm would test them all. But Draco Malfoy, the chosen one, was ready to face it head-on. The tension that gripped Hogwarts had not loosened, even as the dawn stretched across the grounds, casting long shadows over the ancient castle. Draco Malfoy sat alone in the Slytherin common room, the flickering firelight dancing in his cold, calculating eyes. The weight of his role as the chosen one pressed down on him like a stone sinking deep into a dark lake, the ripple effects threatening to overwhelm everything he once knew. He traced the edges of the amulet in his hand, the cold metal biting into his palm. The serpent-shaped talisman hummed softly with dark magic, an ominous reminder of how close Voldemort's shadow had come to swallowing Hogwarts whole. The thought churned inside him. The traitor Theodore Nott had been just a single thread in a much larger, tangled web. How many others had fallen, willingly or unknowingly, into Voldemort's snare? The flick of a shadow broke his focus. Hermione stepped in, eyes sharp but wearied by sleepless nights. "Draco," she said quietly, her voice gentle but firm. "We can't afford to wait. We need a plan, more than just defense. We need to strike, to root out every thread of this darkness before it spreads further." Draco looked up, seeing in her the same fierce determination that burned in his own veins. "I agree, but we have to be careful. The moment we act recklessly, we lose the advantage." Hermione nodded. "Agreed. I've been studying the amulet. It's tied to an ancient form of magic, something beyond what we learned in school. Its power comes from binding souls, siphoning strength from those connected to Hogwarts itself." Draco's heart pounded. "So it weakens the castle's wards by draining the magic from its protectors?" "Yes. And if Voldemort or his followers find a way to use it fully, Hogwarts could fall." The weight of the realization pressed on them both. Draco swallowed hard. "Then we need allies, not just among the students, but the faculty, the order, everyone who still stands against him." Hermione hesitated, then said, "There's more. I discovered old records, hidden in the restricted section, about a secret chamber beneath the castle. Not the Chamber of Secrets, but older than anything we've heard before. It's said to contain relics and artifacts of immense power. If we can find it, maybe we can find a way to counter the amulet." Draco leaned forward, the spark of hope igniting in his chest. "A hidden chamber beneath Hogwarts. It sounds dangerous." "Everything about this war is dangerous," Hermione replied. "But it's a risk we have to take." Draco's thoughts drifted to his family, to the legacy he was carving, a path so different from the one they had planned for him. His father's stern expectations, his mother's cold distance, Lucius's whispered warnings. None of it mattered anymore. He was forging his own destiny, a destiny tied irrevocably to the fate of the wizarding world. Suddenly, the portrait hole swung open, and Luna Lovegood floated in, her dreamy eyes reflecting a strange intensity. "I think I can help," she said softly, holding out a small, delicate orb that shimmered with silvery light. "This is a spectre sphere. It reveals what is hidden to the eye, places, objects, even intentions." Draco took the orb cautiously, feeling the cool energy pulse through his fingers. "Where did you find this?" Luna smiled faintly. "It was a gift from the centaurs. They told me it might be useful soon." Hermione's eyes lit up. "If we combine this with what I've found in the records, we might locate the secret chamber." Draco stood, a surge of adrenaline and purpose flooding through him. "Then we move at once. Gather the others. We don't have time to waste." As they prepared to leave, Draco paused for a moment, staring into the flickering flames of the fireplace. The battle ahead would test everything he was, his courage, his heart, his very soul. But this was his fight now, and he would see it through, no matter the cost. The castle was alive with secrets beneath its ancient stones, and Draco Malfoy was ready to unearth them. The night had wrapped Hogwarts in its quiet cloak, yet beneath the surface, the castle pulsed with restless energy. Draco stood alongside Hermione, Luna, Blaise, and Neville in the dim glow of the Slytherin common room. The air was thick with anticipation. The weight of their mission pressed on each of them like a tangible force. Hermione unfurled a brittle parchment on the low table between them. Its edges were scorched and worn, the ink faded but still legible under the silvery light of Luna's specter sphere. The map was unlike any they had seen, an intricate web of lines, symbols, and arcane runes, layered atop a rough sketch of Hogwarts' foundations. "This is what I found," Hermione explained, tracing a delicate finger along the curving paths. "It's a secret map of the castle's underground chambers, some known, others long forgotten. See here?" She pointed to a small, unmarked section beneath the lake, labeled only with a cryptic rune resembling a coiled serpent. Draco's eyes narrowed. That must be the chamber Luna mentioned, the one older than even the Chamber of Secrets. Luna nodded thoughtfully. "The centaurs said it's a place where the oldest magic sleeps. A place that holds the key to balancing light and dark." Neville leaned forward, voice low and steady. "If we can get there, maybe we can find something to counter the amulet's power, or even destroy it." Blaise crossed his arms, skepticism flickering across his usually impassive face. "Getting there won't be easy. The map shows no obvious entrance, and the castle's wards are already weakened. We'll be vulnerable." Draco's jaw tightened. "Vulnerability isn't an option. We have to move quickly and carefully. Hermione, can the specter sphere guide us once we're below?" "Yes," she said, eyes gleaming. "It can reveal hidden doors, traps, and magical barriers. But it won't last long. The sphere's power diminishes the deeper we go." Luna smiled softly. "We must trust each other. Only together can we navigate the darkness." Draco felt a swell of gratitude toward his companions. Their unity was their greatest strength, a bond forged in shared peril and unwavering resolve. As they prepared their supplies, Draco's thoughts drifted to the stakes at hand. Voldemort's shadow loomed ever larger, threatening not only Hogwarts but the entire wizarding world. Every step they took beneath the castle's ancient stones was a step closer to either salvation or destruction. The night outside grew colder, winds whispering secrets through the castle's gargoyle-studded battlements. Yet inside, a fierce fire burned in the hearts of 5 determined young wizards, ready to confront the secrets lurking beneath their feet. The descent into darkness awaited. The heavy wooden door concealed beneath a tangle of ivy and forgotten spells creaked open under Draco's careful touch. The faint, musty scent of earth and old magic filled the air as the group slipped inside, descending a narrow stone staircase spiraling downwards into the bowels of Hogwarts. Each step echoed softly, a ghostly rhythm in the silence that surrounded them. Draco's heart hammered, not just from the physical exertion but from the weight of what lay ahead. They were about to enter a place untouched by time, where dangers ancient and unknown awaited. His grip tightened around the amulet he'd stowed safely beneath his robes, a reminder of the dark power threatening to unravel everything. Hermione held the specter sphere in front of her, its silvery light casting shifting shadows on the rough stone walls. Luna followed close behind, her serene face belying the tension that knotted in her stomach. Blaise's usual aloofness had given way to grim determination, while Neville's steady presence grounded the group like a rock in a storm. The map Hermione had deciphered was their guide, but as they moved deeper, the passages grew labyrinthine, twisting and turning in ways that seemed to defy logic. The walls hummed with latent enchantments, some protective, others deadly. It was as if the castle itself was guarding its secrets jealously. Suddenly, the sphere's light flickered erratically, a warning. Hermione paused, eyes narrowing. "There's a ward up ahead," she whispered. "Something designed to keep intruders out." Draco stepped forward, pulling his wand. "Leave this to me." His voice was steady, but inside adrenaline surged. He muttered a complex incantation, and a shimmering green light burst from his wand, weaving into a spell that slowly peeled away the ward like fragile cobwebs. The passage beyond revealed itself, a vast chamber carved directly into the bedrock beneath the lake. Glowing runes lined the walls, pulsing with an eerie, otherworldly energy. At the center stood a stone pedestal, atop which rested a crystal orb that shimmered with the same silvery light as Luna's sphere. Luna gasped softly. "The heart of the castle," she breathed. "It's said to contain the purest magic, the balance that holds Hogwarts together." Draco stepped closer, eyes locked on the orb. His fingers itched to reach out, but Hermione placed a hand on his arm. Be careful. The power here is ancient and unpredictable. As Draco hesitated, the chamber trembled. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in dark robes, eyes gleaming with malevolent intent. You seek to meddle with forces beyond your understanding, the stranger hissed. But this is my domain now. The group tensed, readying themselves for the inevitable confrontation. Draco felt the weight of destiny settle firmly on his shoulders. This was no longer just a quest for survival. It was a battle for the very soul of Hogwarts. Magic flared, shadows clashed with light, and the chamber echoed with the thunder of spells as the chosen ones fought to protect the future they believed in. The air in the ancient chamber thickened with raw magic, crackling and humming like a storm ready to burst. Draco's wand was steady in his hand, every muscle taut with focus as the shadowed figure advanced. The dark-robed stranger's eyes burned like embers, twisted with hatred and an eerie knowledge of forbidden spells. Hermione's voice cut through the tension, sharp and precise. Draco, don't let him get close to the heart of the castle. Draco nodded, stepping between the pedestal and the looming threat. The orb atop the pedestal radiated a pale, calming light, its glow contrasting starkly with the stranger's sinister aura. Draco could feel the power in the chamber, ancient and wild, flowing like a river just beneath the surface of his skin. With a flick of his wand, Draco unleashed a spell he had perfected during endless hours of study, Serpensortia. From the tip of his wand erupted a massive spectral serpent, coiling and weaving between the combatants, blocking the stranger's path. The creature hissed, fangs glinting, eyes gleaming with the magic Draco had poured into it. The dark figure snarled, countering with a blast of shadowy energy that shattered the serpent into a spray of sparks. Hermione moved swiftly to Draco's side, conjuring a protective shield that shimmered like glass but absorbed the assault. Luna murmured an incantation, sending waves of silvery light that slowed the stranger's movements, weaving spells that disoriented and distracted. Draco felt his confidence swell. This was no ordinary enemy. The magic the figure wielded was powerful, ancient, but the combined strength of his friends gave him hope. Yet the stranger was relentless, his attacks growing more ferocious, his voice echoing through the chamber with curses older than Hogwarts itself. You cannot stop the inevitable, the figure hissed. The darkness will consume all. The chosen one is a lie. The words cut deep, echoing a fear Draco had tried to bury. The fear that the prophecy might be wrong, that he was destined to fail. But he pushed the doubt aside, focusing on the glowing orb that pulsed steadily atop the pedestal. Hermione's eyes darted to Draco. We need to get closer to the orb. If we can harness its power, maybe we can turn the tide. Draco nodded, heart pounding. Cover me. With a surge of speed, Draco darted forward, weaving spells to fend off the stranger's attacks. The ground trembled beneath their feet, dust falling like rain from the ancient ceiling. The deeper they fought, the stronger the orb's light seemed to grow, bathing Draco in its ethereal glow. As he reached the pedestal, Draco stretched out his hand toward the orb. A sudden, searing pulse of energy shot through him, a surge of clarity and strength unlike anything he had ever felt. The amulet around his neck pulsed in resonance, and for a moment Draco understood. The true power wasn't in the darkness or the light alone, but in the balance between them. The stranger roared in fury, charging with a final, desperate blast of dark magic. But Draco, now glowing with the orb's power, raised his wand with unwavering determination. Lumos Maxima, he shouted. A brilliant beam of light erupted, engulfing the chamber in radiant energy. The dark figure screamed, caught in the brilliance, and then silence. When the light faded, the stranger was gone, vanished like a bad dream into the shadows. The orb's glow softened, settling into a steady pulse as if acknowledging Draco's triumph. Hermione exhaled, a tired smile crossing her lips. You did it, Draco. Draco's eyes shone with newfound resolve. No, we did it. As they turned to leave the chamber, Draco knew that this victory was only the beginning. The path ahead was still fraught with danger, but with the balance of magic now partially in their hands, hope flickered brighter than ever. The return climb through the winding tunnels was quieter than the descent, each step weighed down by the enormity of what they'd just accomplished. The radiant light from the heart of the castle still hummed faintly beneath Draco's skin, a constant reminder that the ancient magic was now intertwined with his very being. His fingers brushed the amulet tucked beneath his robes, its dark shimmer no longer seeming quite so ominous. Hermione walked beside him, her brow furrowed in thought. That power, it's unlike anything I've ever studied. We'll need to understand it fully before Voldemort tries to claim it himself. Luna, her gaze distant yet steady, added, "The balance we found isn't just magic, it's a choice. A responsibility. It can't be wielded carelessly." Neville nodded, his voice low but firm. "We have to protect it, not just from Voldemort, but from anyone who would abuse it. This changes everything." Blaise was silent, his usual smirk replaced by a rare seriousness. "Draco, you're carrying more than just power now. You carry the future." Draco's mind raced. The prophecy that once haunted him now felt less like a curse and more like a challenge, a puzzle to solve. He had always been told he was the Dark Lord's pawn, destined to fail or betray. But now, standing with his friends, he understood that destiny wasn't a chain. It was a path he could choose to walk or change. Reaching the common room, the warmth and familiar chatter felt oddly distant. Draco's eyes caught the flicker of candlelight, the quiet resilience of his housemates. They were counting on him, not just as the chosen one, but as a leader who could bridge worlds divided by fear and hatred. That night, as the castle settled into sleep, Draco sat by the window overlooking the Black Lake. The moon cast a silver glow on the water's surface, reflecting the countless stars above. The balance of light and dark was mirrored there, two sides existing in harmony, fragile but real. He pulled the amulet from beneath his robes, turning it over in his hands. "I won't let this power control me," he whispered to the night. "I'll use it to protect, to unite, to change the world." Behind him, footsteps approached. Hermione stood silently, then placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We're with you, Draco. Every step of the way." For the first time in years, Draco Malfoy allowed himself to hope. Not just for survival, but for a future he could shape with his own hands. The war was far from over, but the tide was beginning to turn. The days that followed their return from the chamber were tense yet charged with a new energy. Draco could feel the pulse of the heart's magic in his veins, a subtle hum that grew stronger when he practiced spells or when danger was near. It was as if the castle itself whispered secrets only he could hear. Yet, despite this newfound connection, a shadow lingered at the edges of his thoughts, a warning that their victory had not gone unnoticed. In the great hall, whispers spread like wildfire. Some students looked at Draco with newfound respect, others with suspicion. The Slytherin common room buzzed with cautious excitement, but even among his closest allies, uncertainty simmered beneath the surface. Draco's position as the chosen one made him a beacon and a target. One evening, as Draco practiced defensive spells in an empty corridor, a sudden chill froze the air. The flickering torchlight cast long, twisting shadows, and from those shadows emerged a familiar figure, Severus Snape. His dark eyes, sharp and unreadable, locked onto Draco's. "You carry a burden few could bear," Snape said quietly, voice layered with something between warning and encouragement. "The balance you wield is volatile. Power unchecked invites destruction." Draco lowered his wand, meeting Snape's gaze steadily. "I'm not afraid of it anymore." Snape's expression softened for a moment before hardening again. "Good. You'll need courage. Because Voldemort knows. He's coming for you, for the heart, for Hogwarts itself." Before Draco could respond, Snape turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving a cold silence behind. The warning echoed in Draco's mind, sharpening his resolve. The next steps were clear. Prepare Hogwarts, protect the heart, and unite those willing to fight. But trust was a fragile thing, especially when fear and ambition could tear allies apart. That night, as Draco confided in Hermione and Luna, the weight of their task settled heavily on them all. "We need to strengthen the defenses," Hermione insisted, "and gather support, quietly, before Voldemort makes his move." Luna nodded, her calm voice steady. "There are still those who believe in light, even in the darkest places. We must find them." Draco stared out toward the moonlit sky, the pulse of power steady in his chest. The war was far from over, and the coming storm would test every ounce of his strength and conviction. But for the first time, Draco was ready. The days blurred into a whirlwind of strategy meetings, whispered conversations, and secret training sessions. Draco had become a different kind of leader, one who listened more than commanded, who sought allies where others saw only enemies. The castle's ancient magic, still resonating through him, offered glimpses of hidden passages and concealed rooms, invaluable in their preparations. Hermione had taken to researching protective enchantments that could shield the heart of the castle and the students alike. Luna's unique insight into magical creatures and ethereal forces guided them toward unexpected sources of help, like the elusive Thestrals and house elves who owed their loyalty to Hogwarts itself. Meanwhile, Draco worked quietly to mend old wounds. He reached out to former Slytherins wary of his new path, offering trust where suspicion had reigned. Some accepted, others remained distant, their eyes shadowed by doubt. Yet, every small victory bolstered the fragile alliance growing within the castle walls. One evening, as Draco prepared for another covert meeting, a soft knock came at the door. To his surprise, it was Pansy Parkinson, her expression conflicted but determined. "I want to help," she said, voice low. "For all the mistakes we made. I don't want Hogwarts to fall." Draco studied her carefully. The girl who had once mocked him now stood vulnerable, hoping for redemption. He nodded slowly. "We need every ally we can get." Their alliance marked a turning point. News traveled fast in the shadows, and soon whispers of a united front against Voldemort began to spread through the castle. Students, teachers, and creatures bound by a common cause. But the darkness was not idle. Far beyond Hogwarts, Voldemort's eyes burned with rage and anticipation. His forces stirred, and his plans twisted like a serpent coiling tighter around the world. Draco could feel the storm approaching, and this time he would face it not as a pawn, but as a king. Winter's chill crept steadily across the grounds of Hogwarts, frosting the turrets and cloaking the forbidden forest in silver silence. The castle, normally bustling with the nervous energy of students, now hummed with a different tension, one of preparation, vigilance, and quiet resolve. Draco stood atop the astronomy tower, gazing out over the vast landscape. The heart of the castle pulsed faintly beneath his robes, its steady rhythm a reminder that the power he carried was both a gift and a burden. His breath crystallized in the cold air as his thoughts wandered to the growing threat beyond the school's walls. Within the great hall, the makeshift council convened nightly. Hermione's sharp intellect shaped plans for magical defenses, while Luna's mystical knowledge provided insights into ancient wards long forgotten by most. Neville's steadfast courage inspired the students rallying behind Draco's cause. Even former rivals like Pansy and Blaise found purpose in their shared mission. But whispers from the castle's shadows told another story, one of spies and betrayal. Draco's trust, hard-won and carefully guarded, was tested by secrets that seemed to seep into every corner. He knew Voldemort's reach was long, his agents weaving webs designed to fracture their fragile alliance. One evening, as a blizzard raged outside, Draco received a clandestine message, a single cryptic phrase scrawled in emerald ink. "The serpent coils beneath the stone." His heart quickened. The serpent was more than a symbol, it was a warning. Somewhere deep within Hogwarts, hidden and ancient, a danger stirred. Determined to uncover the truth, Draco gathered his closest confidants. "We must find what lies beneath," he said, voice firm despite the icy wind biting at the tower. "Before it's too late." As they descended into the castle's forgotten depths, the walls seemed to close in, shadows twisting and whispering of old magic and darker days. The very stones beneath their feet held secrets that could either protect them or destroy everything they fought for. The storm was coming, and Draco Malfoy, the chosen one, would stand at its eye. The cold stone corridors beneath Hogwarts twisted like the coils of a serpent, winding deeper and deeper into the ancient bedrock of the castle. Torchlight flickered against damp walls, casting long shadows that danced like silent sentinels. Draco led the group, Hermione, Luna, Neville, and Blaise, down narrow staircases forgotten by most, the weight of their mission pressing heavily on each step. "The message," Hermione whispered, her voice echoing softly. "It must refer to something ancient, probably connected to Salazar Slytherin. The serpent is his emblem, after all." Luna's eyes glimmered with quiet certainty. "There's magic here older than Hogwarts itself." The founders left more than just the castle behind. Hidden protections, traps, and perhaps secrets meant to be kept. Their footsteps slowed as they entered a vast cavernous chamber. The walls were lined with serpentine carvings, their emerald eyes seeming to follow the intruders. At the center lay a massive stone slab etched with runes pulsing faintly with green light, the heart of the chamber. Draco felt the familiar hum from the amulet beneath his robes intensify, as if responding to the ancient magic around them. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling as a hidden mechanism triggered, revealing a narrow passage beyond the slab. A cold breeze whispered from the darkness, carrying a faint hiss. "This is it," Draco said, swallowing his nerves. Whatever's down there could change everything. As they stepped through the passage, they entered a labyrinth of twisting tunnels, the air thick with enchantments that twisted perception and tested their resolve. Each corridor seemed to pulse with a living magic, ancient, wild, and dangerous. The group pressed forward, senses sharp, until they came upon a chamber glowing with an eerie green light. At its center, a massive statue of a serpent coiled around an orb of shining crystal, the very embodiment of Slytherin's legacy. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber, cold, cruel, and unmistakably Voldemort's. "You think you can claim the power of the founders? Foolish boy. This castle belongs to me. And soon so will you." The chamber doors slammed shut, and the serpent's eyes glowed bright as the crystal orb began to pulse with a dark energy. Draco raised his wand, ready to face the shadow creeping ever closer to the heart of Hogwarts. The final battle beneath the stone had begun. The chamber thrummed with a sinister energy, the glowing serpent statue radiating a malevolent pulse that seemed to grip at Draco's very soul. Voldemort's voice, cold and venomous, echoed off the walls, taunting and confident. The air felt heavy, thick with ancient magic that resisted their intrusion. Draco's grip tightened on his wand, the pulse from the heart amulet beneath his robes syncing with the rhythm of the serpent orb before him. It was as if two forces, one of light and one of shadow, were locked in a silent battle for dominance within the chamber itself. "We won't let you take this place," Draco declared, voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Hermione's fingers danced over her own wand, whispering protective incantations that wrapped the group in a shimmering shield. Luna stood beside Draco, her calm demeanor a steady anchor amid the swirling chaos. A sudden surge of dark magic exploded from the serpent orb, and the statue's eyes flared bright green as spectral serpents erupted from its coils, slithering toward them with lethal speed. Draco reacted instantly, casting a powerful Expelliarmus that scattered the nearest apparition. The battle was fierce and relentless, their spells clashing against the ancient magic of the chamber, the echoes of each curse reverberating through the tunnels. As Voldemort's presence pressed on, Draco's connection to the heart amulet grew stronger. He could feel the wisdom of the founders flowing through him, the cunning of Slytherin, the bravery of Gryffindor, the wisdom of Ravenclaw, and the loyalty of Hufflepuff, all weaving together in a powerful unity. With a roar of determination, Draco unleashed a surge of pure energy from the amulet, a brilliant light that cut through the darkness and shattered the serpent orb. The spectral serpents dissolved into nothingness, and the statue cracked, its power broken. Voldemort's voice faded into a hiss of fury and disbelief. "This isn't over, Malfoy." As the chamber's oppressive weight lifted, Draco and his friends took a moment to catch their breath. The path forward was still uncertain, but for the first time, they had a true advantage. The heart of the serpent was broken, but the war for Hogwarts had only just begun. The shattered remnants of the serpent orb lay scattered on the cold stone floor, faint traces of green magic lingering in the air like a fading curse. Draco, Hermione, Luna, Neville, and Blaise stood together, the heavy silence between them a testament to the battle they had just survived. Though victorious, the victory felt fragile, as if the castle itself was holding its breath. Draco's chest rose and fell steadily, but beneath the calm surface, his mind raced. Voldemort's warning echoed relentlessly. "This isn't over." It wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. The Dark Lord's obsession with the heart of Hogwarts had only deepened, and this confrontation would surely provoke a more desperate and dangerous response. Hermione knelt to examine the broken shards of the orb, her brows furrowed in concentration. This magic, It's ancient and deeply tied to Hogwarts' foundation. Destroying the orb weakens Voldemort's hold on the castle, but it also means he'll try to strike elsewhere, more fiercely than before. Luna's gaze drifted toward the ceiling, as if listening for whispers carried by the stone. There's power still buried here, hidden in places we haven't yet uncovered. We must keep searching, protect the castle with every secret the Founders left behind. Neville stepped forward, determination etched into his features. We've faced Voldemort before, and we've seen what happens when we hesitate. We have to be ready, for him, and for what comes next. Draco nodded, the weight of leadership settling firmly on his shoulders once again. We need to strengthen our defenses, unite everyone who's willing to stand with us, and prepare for the inevitable storm. Hogwarts is more than just a school, it's our home. And I won't let it fall. As they ascended from the hidden depths, the castle seemed to awaken around them. The portraits whispered words of encouragement, and students moved with renewed purpose through the halls. Allies once hesitant were now rallying behind Draco's cause, their faith bolstered by the courage they had seen in him. Outside, the winter storm began to relent, revealing a sky streaked with pale dawn light, a fragile hope shining through the darkness. Draco allowed himself a brief moment to breathe it in. The path ahead was daunting, the dangers still lurking in shadows, but the resolve within Hogwarts burned brighter than ever. The war was far from over. But so long as they stood together, there was a chance. The morning after their descent into the Serpent's Lair brought a mix of hope and unease. Word of Draco's victory over the ancient chamber spread quickly through Hogwarts, igniting whispers of courage and resistance, but also drawing wary glances and guarded conversations among students and staff alike. In the Great Hall, the air was charged with a tense energy. Draco sat at the head of the Slytherin table, surrounded by Hermione, Neville, Luna, and a growing number of supporters. Pansy Parkinson and Blaise Zabini exchanged furtive looks, their loyalty more assured than ever. But across the hall, not all eyes were welcoming. Some Gryffindors muttered under their breath, and even a few Ravenclaws regarded Draco with skepticism. Dumbledore's portrait hung solemnly above the staff table, his gaze heavy with concern. "Draco," the voice was quiet but firm, "your victory in the depths is significant, but it does not guarantee safety. The forces aligned against us grow more desperate. Trust will be as vital as strength." Draco nodded, feeling the weight of the entire school's fate pressing down on him. "We need every hand. Allies beyond the usual factions." Hermione leaned forward. "The Order of the Phoenix could provide reinforcements. But they must be convinced Hogwarts remains secure, and that you're truly ready to lead." Neville's voice was steady. "I'll reach out to contacts from the Herbology Guild and others in the magical community. People who want to protect Hogwarts, not tear it apart." Luna added softly, "And there's the question of the Malfoy family's influence. Some see it as a liability, others as a key to winning support in the wider wizarding world." Draco's expression tightened. The legacy of his family was a double-edged sword, both shield and target. "I'll have to confront that head-on." As the meeting broke up, Draco found himself alone on the castle's ramparts, staring out at the vast grounds dusted in frost. The coming weeks would be a balancing act between forging alliances, managing internal distrust, and preparing for Voldemort's inevitable retaliation. Somewhere in the distance, the first caw of a raven sounded, a messenger arriving with news, or perhaps a warning. Draco's jaw set. This was just the beginning. The corridors of Hogwarts buzzed with quiet tension, the usual hum of student chatter replaced by whispered speculation and furtive glances. Draco moved through the castle with a purposeful stride, feeling the weight of every stare and the burden of unspoken doubts pressing in on him. His victory beneath the castle's depths had changed something fundamental. Some saw him as a savior, others as a threat. The Malfoy name carried a heavy legacy, and despite his efforts, suspicion lingered like a shadow at every turn. In the dungeons, Draco met with Blaise and Pansy, who had become his closest confidants. "We need to show them we're more than the past," Draco said, voice low but fierce. "Our actions now will define the future of Hogwarts." Blaise nodded, his usual cynicism tempered by genuine loyalty. "There are those who will never trust us, no matter what we do. But we can't let that stop us." Pansy added, "We should strengthen ties with the other houses." especially Gryffindor. If we can win over their leaders, the rest will follow. Draco agreed. I've been thinking the same. Hermione, Neville, and Luna have been invaluable. They're proof that unity is possible. Later, in the common room, Draco found himself alone with Hermione. The darkness is coming, she said softly, and it's more cunning than ever. We need to prepare, not just for battles, but for the lies and fear Voldemort will spread. Draco met her gaze, determination burning in his eyes. Then we'll meet it head-on. Together. As night fell, an ominous chill settled over Hogwarts. Unseen eyes watched from the shadows, and whispers of betrayal stirred in the wind. The war for the castle was no longer just about magic. It was a battle for hearts and minds, where trust was the most powerful weapon of all. The atmosphere at Hogwarts had shifted into something more fragile, like a glass about to shatter. Draco stood in the shadowed hallway near the astronomy tower, looking out at the star-speckled sky. The cold night air bit at his skin, but inside him, a fire burned steadily, a mix of resolve and urgency. Word had come from the Order of the Phoenix. Reinforcements were on their way, but time was running out. Voldemort's forces were growing bolder, striking pockets of resistance both inside and outside the castle. Draco knew they couldn't afford complacency. Every decision mattered. Inside the headmaster's office, Draco convened a council of key allies: Hermione, Neville, Luna, Blaise, and a few trusted professors. Each face showed the strain of endless vigilance, but also the spark of hope that refused to be extinguished. We must unify the houses, Draco began, his voice steady. No more divisions. Hogwarts stands as one, or it falls apart. Professor McGonagall nodded solemnly. It will take more than words, Draco. Actions speak louder. We need a plan to fortify defenses and train students beyond what we've done. Hermione interjected. I've been working on advanced defensive charms and enchantments. If we can teach these to the older students, it will buy us time. Neville shared news from the grounds. The local magical creatures are restless. Some may be allies if we approach them carefully. Luna, ever perceptive, added. And the castle itself. I feel it responding to us. We may be able to awaken hidden protections, ancient magic tied to the founders. Draco's eyes flickered with a mix of determination and uncertainty. The road ahead was perilous, but they had to believe in the strength of their unity. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying with it the distant thunder of approaching storm clouds, both literal and metaphorical. The final battle for Hogwarts was drawing near. The castle's ancient stones seemed to hum with a strange energy as Draco led his closest allies into the forbidden forest's edge under the cloak of twilight. Luna had spoken of hidden magic bound to the founders themselves, magic long forgotten, waiting to be awakened by those deemed worthy. Draco was skeptical but desperate enough to listen. They followed Luna's lead to a circle of ancient trees, roots twisted like serpents, their bark etched with runes glowing faintly under the moonlight. This is where it begins, Luna whispered, tracing her fingers over the symbols. The founders left a part of themselves here, hidden, waiting for a moment when Hogwarts needs them most. Hermione produced a worn parchment, covered in meticulous notes and translated fragments from long-lost texts. If we can decipher these runes, we might unlock protections powerful enough to repel Voldemort's forces. Neville held his wand steady, eyes scanning the darkness for any signs of danger. We're exposed out here. If the Death Eaters catch wind of this, they'll strike. Blaise cracked a rare smile. Then we move fast. Draco stepped into the center of the circle, feeling a pulse beneath his feet as ancient magic awakened. A warmth spread from the ground up through his body, and for a moment he saw flashes of the past, the founders themselves, their hopes and fears, and the bonds they forged. This is more than magic, Draco said, voice reverent. It's a legacy, one we have to honor and protect. As they began the intricate ritual to awaken the founders' magic, the night sky cracked open with a roar. The storm was coming, and with it, the fate of Hogwarts would be decided. The ritual in the forest glowed brighter as ancient magic stirred, swirling around Draco and his friends like a living force. The runes carved into the trees pulsed with light, casting eerie shadows that danced across their faces. Each of them could feel the weight of centuries pressing down, as if the founders themselves were reaching out from beyond time. Draco's heart pounded as he concentrated, drawing on the surge of power. It was overwhelming, like standing at the edge of a great storm. And yet, beneath it, there was a clear purpose, a connection that tied him not only to the castle but to every wizard who had walked its halls. Hermione's voice broke the silence. This magic, it's responsive. It reacts to our intentions. Neville glanced nervously into the dark forest. We can't stay long. If Voldemort's spies are near, they'll sense this. Luna smiled serenely, her eyes reflecting the glow. The Founders wanted this power to protect Hogwarts, but only if those who wield it are true of heart. Draco closed his eyes and let the energy flow through him. Visions flickered before him. Scenes of the castle through ages past, of battles fought and sacrifices made. The strength of the Founders was not just in spells or enchantments, but in the unity and courage of those who called Hogwarts home. As the ritual reached its climax, a surge of warmth burst outward, rippling through the forest and into the very stones of the castle. The magic settled like a shield, invisible but unyielding. Draco opened his eyes, feeling transformed, not just by power, but by responsibility. The Founders' legacy was now his to protect. But far beyond the safety of Hogwarts, dark forces gathered. Voldemort's shadow loomed ever closer, and the final confrontation was inevitable. Hogwarts lay quiet under a blanket of mist and stars, the calm before a tempest no one could ignore. In the common room, flickering candlelight cast long shadows on the faces of those gathered, students and professors united by a single purpose. The weight of what was to come settled heavily on their shoulders. Draco sat near the fireplace, his gaze distant as he thought of everything that had led to this moment. The magic of the Founders now shielded the castle, but it was fragile, only as strong as the resolve of those who protected it. He could feel the tension coiling tight within the walls, like a beast waiting to pounce. Hermione approached quietly, carrying a stack of parchment. I've prepared wards and spells to strengthen the castle's defenses. We'll need every advantage. Neville was busy organizing groups for patrols and communication, his usual nervousness replaced by fierce determination. Everyone must be ready. No one leaves their post. Luna, sitting cross-legged by the window, stared out at the darkened grounds. The forest watches too. I've sensed creatures restless, waiting for what's to come. Draco rose and looked around at the faces illuminated by firelight, friends, allies, those who had chosen to stand with him. Tomorrow, everything changes, he said softly. We fight not just for Hogwarts, but for the future of magic itself. Outside, the wind began to howl, rattling windows and stirring the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a lone owl took flight, its cry a haunting herald of the battle looming on the horizon. As the castle settled into uneasy silence, Draco allowed himself one moment to steel his heart. The dawn would bring war. Dawn broke gray and heavy over Hogwarts, the castle still cloaked in a thick mist that blurred the edges of the looming battle. Draco stood atop the battlements, watching as the first signs of movement stirred in the Forbidden Forest and beyond. His heart hammered not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility pressing on him like a living thing. The Death Eaters had come, silent and deadly, slipping through shadows like ghosts. But Hogwarts was no longer the vulnerable fortress it once had been. The Founders' magic thrummed beneath their feet, and the defenders were ready. Down below, spells lit up the morning gloom. Flashes of green and red, protective shields shimmering like glass barriers. Students and professors fought side by side, their faces set with grim determination. Draco moved swiftly, casting spells that protected his allies and disrupted enemy advances. His wand felt like an extension of his will, every movement precise and powerful. He saw Blaze and Pansy fighting fiercely nearby, their loyalty unwavering. Suddenly, a sharp cry rang out. A group of younger students had been cornered near the castle gates. Without hesitation, Draco charged, cutting through the chaos to reach them. The moment felt like a test, the fragile line between victory and defeat. As he reached the trapped students, he felt a familiar presence behind him. Harry Potter, his once rival, now fighting alongside him, wand raised in defense. Their eyes met briefly, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. The war was no longer about old grudges. It was about survival. The battle raged on, a chaotic symphony of light and shadow. Each victory was hard-won, each loss a painful reminder of the cost. Yet, through it all, Draco held firm, his destiny no longer defined by prophecy, but by the choices he made in the face of darkness. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid scent of burnt wood as the battle intensified around the shattered remnants of the courtyard. The steady roar of spells colliding echoed endlessly, punctuated by cries of pain and shouts of command. Amid the chaos, Draco moved like a force of nature, focused, unyielding, and fiercely protective of those around him. His gaze swept over the battlefield, catching sight of Hermione and Luna working in tandem to reinforce barriers, while Neville rallied a group of first-years who had been caught in the fray. The sight of his friends fighting with such courage stirred something deep within him, a fierce pride and an unshakable resolve. Suddenly, a shadow fell over Draco as a Death Eater lunged from the smoke, wand raised for a killing curse. In an instant, Draco's reflexes took over. He deflected the curse with a shimmering shield charm, then retaliated with a precise stunning spell. The attacker crumpled to the ground, unconscious but alive. "Stay close," Draco shouted, pulling a young student behind him. "We're not done yet." At that moment, Harry appeared beside him, breathless but determined. "We need to push them back to the edge of the forest. If we hold here, we can protect the castle." Draco nodded. "Agreed." Together, side by side, they led a coordinated counterattack. Spells soared through the air, the united strength of Hogwarts defenders pushing back the invading darkness. Each step forward was hard-fought, but their resolve was a beacon in the storm. As the sun began to rise higher, casting a golden glow over the battlefield, Draco felt something shift inside him. The weight of the prophecy lifted, replaced by the power of choice and the bonds forged in fire. The war was not yet won, but hope burned brighter than ever. The first light of morning stretched across the battered grounds of Hogwarts, painting the sky with hues of gold and rose. The fierce battle had finally begun to ebb, leaving behind the scent of smoke and the quiet murmur of weary breaths. Though exhaustion clung to every muscle, Draco stood tall amidst the ruins, a figure transformed by the fires of war. Around him, friends and foes alike lay still, some defeated, others retreating into the shadows. The Founder's magic, awakened and wielded with purpose, had held strong, a shield not just of spells but of unyielding spirit. Draco's eyes scanned the horizon where the last of Voldemort's forces withdrew, their menace broken for now. Beside him, Harry stepped forward, their rivalry dissolved into a partnership forged through shared sacrifice. "We did it," Harry said softly, a rare smile touching his lips. Draco allowed himself a moment's relief before answering. "This is just the beginning. Hogwarts will never be the same, and neither will we." In the weeks that followed, the castle healed, scarred but resilient. The students and staff who had stood together found new strength in their unity. The prophecy that once seemed to dictate fate had been rewritten by choices made with courage and heart. Draco Malfoy, once marked by destiny, had become something far greater, a leader who shaped his own path and protected the legacy of magic itself. As the sun climbed higher, casting light over a new era, Hogwarts stood ready to face whatever future awaited together.